Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.
That's the best voice ever.
Keep
that is the
telling it.
best voice
So you
ever.
son of a bitch, you got Instagram. I'm like, I don't fucking have, I'm looking right at it, you lying son of a bitch. I'm like, I don't fucking have Instagram. I'm telling you. And yeah, so he thought it was hilarious that he made me an Instagram post. No. And I said, you son of a bitch, you got 2 of them now. You've got 2.
Okay.
All right, good.
I feel like I'm at practice. We're adjusting levels and shit.
So why'd you get a face count? A face count.
Basic.
It's a Facebook account. We haven't even started yet, and there's no alcohol in there. Unbelievable.
We're in trouble now.
Well, thank you all for being here. This crazy idea I've had to get the 4 of you together, which is not really a crazy idea, but I wanted to talk about anything, but I wanted to somewhat steer it a little bit in terms of what your thoughts are in terms of where we are now with the pandemic in regards to live music in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
You were on the show a couple months ago, and you were kind enough to give us your idea, and you were lamenting recently that you might have been a little optimistic.
I know. I was like, I listened to a little bit of it just recently before you asked, like right when you asked us to come back, and I was like, oh, what did I say last time? I was like, oh, sweetheart, you're so optimistic. I was totally convinced that by June we'd be doing shows, but
Hey, everybody loves an
obviously-
optimist.
I know, and I'm
Right.
just going to keep being that way, I think.
Of course.
I feel like that's the best way to be.
And Fred has been shut down for what?
Well,
There's no national tours going
There's
on.
nothing
There's
going
nothing
on. I've
going
been
on.
shut down since TSO left, but
yeah.
that was January.
Yep.
And we're not
Wow.
looking for anything till at least next year.
Yeah, that's
So-
what I heard. Every major tour is pretty much
Yep.
2021 right now.
Yep. 2021.
Even the country tours?
Well, I mean, they're doing like those drive-in things. Like I know Skillet. I just saw
What is
their-
that?
So I don't know. I mean, I just know you drive in and like, do they play on a stage? I don't
play
even.
on a stage.
Okay, so then you have to stay in your car. And we were just talking with Jerry's bassist earlier today, Paul, and he was saying
It's like
that
a drive-in concert. You
there's
sit
like
in
a
your
limit
car, and
to the
instead
amount
of
of
a
people.
movie
Yep.
screen, the band plays.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's
Or
like,
wait, do they have a screen so you can see the band?
I think what they do is they have the band play
Yeah.
in front of like the screen. Maybe they project it onto the.
Yeah, because I was like, I'd be 15 rows back, like I can't see shit.
Yeah, I don't really know how that works, but from what he was saying, like you have like a flat rate you pay for the car, but there's a limit to how
Well,
many
wait,
people
that
you-
was the Metallica one that he was
yeah,
talking
but
about.
do you wonder if I don't know if they're all run
I
like
don't know.
that. I have no.
He
like,
said Metallica is doing a thing where you pay per car and you can fit up to 6 people in your car.
right. So either way, I'm just not excited about it. I'm trying to be optimistic again, but like right now, I'm like, it's been so long since I've been to a concert. I just feel like I just want to go to a regular concert. I don't want to go sit in my car and be distant from people.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of when you sit and think about being in your car.
Yeah, like that doesn't feel like. I mean, I could be in my car. I love listening to my music in my car.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Right.
That's a good thing. But like when I'm at a concert, I want to be at a concert.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you're considering all the options. You know, Napalm Death takes the stage, and next thing you know, there's a fucking Kentucky Derby happening.
No,
Hell of a mosh pit.
there you go. That's like that one meme that had like all the cars stacked up on top of each other, and they were like modern day mosh pits. Or...
Yeah, you can't mosh.
No.
Can't mosh at a drive-in.
Well, they
I
had
mean,
that.
you could.
Well, that's another interesting thing is,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to have concerts back. Think about it, you know, fucking moshing. They're not going to allow that shit. You'll have to wear a mask. They try and stay away from
No moshing.
Holy shit, dude! They didn't like it when you did that in clubs anyway. They'll have a
I
shit
know.
fit.
I know it's gonna be bad.
So, Fred, you've been all the times you've toured with bands that did big festivals, right?
Yeah.
And you saw those big swirls, and there's multiple stories. in
Circle
there.
pit.
Yeah, but like, you used to say there's like a sea humanity, you know, and it's a little uncomfortable because you're kind of like, you know, germphobe, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm a germaphobe to begin with, you know.
so that's all gone, right? I mean,
Yeah, but
that's
it's not all gone forever. I am going to be
You
the
are the
optimistic
optimist in
on
this
this
group.
one because
in terms of mosh pits.
not forever. I mean, I think people are going to be weirded out for a while, but like,
Yeah.
is it going to last?
I kind
like,
of agree with
do you
that.
think they can actually change people's culture to the and like mindset? I mean, like we're human beings, like we're naturally going to gravitate towards each other. Like I feel like that's like an instinctual thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, people will. There's always going to be a mosh pit. Somebody's
Whether it's
always
a
going to go get in
whether
the
it's
pit,
legal or
and
not.
they're going to.
And you'll-
Yeah.
and you'll break someone's leg.
And I'll kick somebody right in the shin and break their leg.
I think life is always a mosh pit. You can't stop nature.
There is some softball playing girl in Pittsburgh from the late '80s.
He walks with a limp.
That walks with the limp because
Oh, I missed this story. I can tell.
I heard this in the last one.
I need to
that,
catch
like,
this episode.
Yeah, no, I did hear. I caught that one.
For the show about certain stories you can't tell because you got to worry about legal action. You're going to get a class action suit in the mail for some chick who's been dealing with
This
a...
girl's been waiting for this opportunity like her whole
Finally
life.
found this guy.
She's like, her medical bills have been stacking up.
I think she's the cashier at Sheets in Bridgeville.
She's got like a fucking pin in her ankle. You know? She can't go through the metal detector at the airport. She's like, I finally found you,
It
motherfucker.
rains and she's in pain. You know, she's like, oh.
She thinks about you at night when it rains and shit. You know?
She's got a little voodoo doll. She's sitting
I
there.
had a softball scholarship and I had to give it up. I lost my scholarship because of him.
Oh, amazing. Oh, seriously.
All these stories you're talking about, you can't tell because of certain behaviors, and this is the one that's going to land you in
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, exactly.
I know.
You know.
It's
Well,
true.
yeah. So Fred did convey some funny stories that are in his upcoming book before the show. We can't, for a lot of reasons, can't put them on the podcast. Although we'd like to.
Well, then you wouldn't buy the book.
To.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, it's a marketing thing for him, but selfishly
go
for
with
me,
that.
I'd like to
Yeah.
say,
Yeah, we'll go with
with
marketing.
that. Let's go with that, Jerry. That's exactly what we're gonna do.
I like it.
Hey, so let's talk seriously for a second.
Okay.
Well, somewhat seriously. This might be an astute
All
question for you.
set up.
The genre of metal in the year 2020, even over the past 6 or 7 years, locally, okay, how difficult is it, or what is the state of metal now? Because the average person has been hearing since 2005, 6-ish on nationally that metal's really taking it on the chin when it comes to no one listens to metal anymore. They're not gaining new fans. This is what, correct me if I'm wrong, how often did we hear that in the guitar years?
Yeah.
You know, we were building metal guitars and we were told there wasn't going to be an audience for it.
Nobody wants those guitars.
We didn't find that to be the case at all. But and again, there's an age difference here. But
Yeah.
is metal still a healthy demographic?
I think it's definitely true that rock and metal have taken a severe downturn over the last 15 years. I think it's coming back strong. I think it changed, and it didn't all change. You still got your hard hitting bands. There's still bands playing thrash,
Yeah.
That's true.
sounding like. I mean, some of them have put a modern spin on it, but I mean, there's still bands that are releasing music that's still true to the the '90s thrash and the late '80s. I think where it's really changed is some of the newer bands that have incorporated some different styles and some different elements. And some people don't like that at all. And I'll tell you what, I was really against it because I grew up, Megadeth,
Yeah.
Metallica, Iron Maiden. When I got my first Iron Maiden album, I was so fucking excited.
Oh my gosh. So side note, that was like the moment I fell in love with Jerry. Was like he took me to an Iron Maiden concert and he was
Take
love
me to
story.
Iron Maiden, baby.
and side note,
That is great.
I got a free ticket because he locked his car keys in the car with the car running, and he had to go get the AAA.
It just wouldn't be a
Come up.
podcast without her telling everyone what an idiot her husband is.
And we're only, at least you got 15 minutes in before
No,
We don't want to run out of time. I'll make sure I'll tell you about how the one time I put gasoline in a diesel engine so everyone knows what a fucking idiot I am.
You would do that.
Well, I was getting to the romantic part, okay, but I was going to stroke my own ego a little bit and talk about how I got a free ticket because I was waiting for you because
So how did you get that free ticket?
because some guy just came up
Yeah,
and
that's what I want to know.
That's exactly right. Well, I was hoping to get
It
there.
was a metal show.
you
This was
know,
before we were married. It was a
it's-
different
yeah,
time.
don't hold against me. But no, so I'm by myself sitting on this car that's running, and it's the keys are locked in the car. The
Right.
car is running, so I'm sitting on top of the car, so like no one takes off with this car, like busts the window
Not
and
that
just
they
like
could
leaves.
because it was fucking locked.
Well, if they could if they broke the window to get in. I mean, it's a metal show.
He's
Who
still a
knows?
little sore about it, I can tell.
So he leaves, and someone just walks up to me, this guy, and he's like, "Do you want a free ticket?" And I was like, I like froze. I'm like 16. I'm like, I don't know what to say. I'm like, And he's like, I'm waiting for my boyfriend to come back. He's like, no, I'll just give you a free ticket. He's like, you can just have it.
Oh, well, that was
And
nice. of
yeah,
him.
like so I got a free ticket to Iron Maiden, but we're there and he just starts like. We're like in the lawn, and he's like, there's like no one else around him. He is singing like every single song, or every single lyric to this. I don't even know what song it was because didn't really grow up listening to Iron Maiden, only through him. But he's just like freaking out. I'm like, wow, he really loves this music, and then I fell in love with him.
There you go.
There it is.
So there's the romantic part.
See, now she recovered there.
Romantic interlude.
Did you okay?
No,
Right?
my ego can take a hit. Trust me. I'm in a local band. My ego can take quite a bruising, and I'll just keep coming back for more. I love that. What is it? That meme I saw. I know we're getting down a rabbit hole already, but it's like talking about sports teams and how they're going to have to play without an audience. And it shows, I don't know what movie it's from. He's putting his head in the news and he's looking at him and he's like, local rock musicians, first time?
Oh, it's so sad, but true.
What is it about Pittsburghers that they just don't get the concept of paying the cover charge? They'll avoid it. They'll order that, they'll order that $12 cocktail and feel that they're being slightly cosmopolitan, but they won't pay that $7 cover. Why is that? It's a Pittsburgh thing. I don't get it.
I don't think it's a Pittsburgh thing. I think
You don't think?
No, I mean it might be worse here, but I've heard that in other places where people have
Don't
this
value it?
Well, people have this idea
Music's free.
music should be
Yeah.
free. You know what I mean? When you ask people to pay for music, they look at you like,
Yeah.
"What the fuck did you just say?"
Yeah, like-
Kids, I want to tell you something. That whole idea of music should be free, that's your fucking generation.
Yeah, you got that.
Our
right.
generation was all
I know.
about getting paid.
Yeah,
Hey,
fucking
I have tons of free music on a like a a
Napster
hard
and
drive.
fucking
that I
LimeWire,
didn't pay
and
for,
really,
so.
it wasn't even that because
Yeah.
you had to steal that. You had to
Yeah.
risk giving your computer AIDS on fucking LimeWire if you wanted the new album for free.
Oh my god.
True.
No,
Very
it
true.
really came
True.
down to fucking not free streaming, but pay for streaming services. And
Right.
let's not go there just yet. But what I was going to say is, what I'm seeing is a lot of metal bands, and some of them are really heavy bands. They're incorporating, I mean, not just like different, like, more middle of the road rock, because that's nothing new. But I'm talking like pop elements, and I mean the whole hip hop and heavy rock and metal. That's nothing new. That's something that's being done. But really, like, seeing elements, I mean, straight pop. Like the
Yeah.
singing sounds like what you used to hear the Backstreet Boys do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did not like it at first. You know what I mean? I come from Iron Maiden and Megadeth, and later, I don't know, I guess you'd call them like new metal bands. And so I was like, I don't know if I'm with this. And I mean,
His balls are dropped.
I'm like, I don't know if I'm about this because it's very different, but like, I mean, it's bringing people back to
Yeah.
the genre, so that's
Right.
why,
Yeah.
like,
Sure.
you know what I mean? People listen to some of these songs. What is it by
Bring Me?
Palisades?
Oh, yeah.
Let Down, and I mean that's pretty
a
poppy,
straight up pop song.
right? Like true metal fans that I know, like hardcore fans, just they listen to a song like that and they hate it, and I'm like, we're getting our fucking asses beat.
Yeah, like if this is gonna
beat by
work.
pop, hip hop, and country. Like we're just getting fucking destroyed on the national scene. Whatever brings them back, bro.
Yeah.
Well,
You
not
know?
only that,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it's like younger people, in my opinion, don't really care as much about genre anymore. Like it's not
Is
like
that a good thing, right?
I guess I don't know. I mean,
could be.
It could be. I think so because like I still, whenever Jerry and I were in high school, it was like very distinct. Like, you know what I mean? Like there were like the jocks, and then there were the smart kids, and then there was maybe some of the smart kids that were a little bit into sports, and maybe
Right.
some of the smart kids were into like rock and metal or whatever.
it was segmented.
But you like definitely knew
like you wore the
your
kind
place.
of clothes
You
that
knew
went
your
along
place.
with your music
Yeah.
genre.
You
and-
knew your place.
Yeah, you did.
It's a horrible way
Seriously.
to put it, but it's true.
No, it was, and I mean, because we were in school whenever Columbine happened,
Yeah.
and he had a
I wore a trench coat to
and
school. It was
man,
a rough
this
time for
girl
me.
was ready to spit on him.
I'd imagine so.
Like,
It was a rough time for
legit.
me.
Yeah,
I would imagine
yeah.
so.
There were girls that were just like, "Ew, I can't believe you. You're
Spit
so
on me, please.
insensitive."
I'll be okay with that. I walked past homeroom, and my buddy was like, "You walked past, and this one chick turned around and looked at me and goes, I would like to kill him."
Holy shit.
And that's when you open the jacket, whip out your sawed off.
Yeah, right.
I was walking down the hallway, and I was having a bad day, and I was just sick of this shit. I can't believe I didn't get fucking expelled for this. I got expelled for something else. But I looked at my buddy, and I was like, "Do you want to see 50 people hit the deck like now?" And threw my coat open. I was like, "Holy shit, bro!"
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, stupid.
Yeah, but-
Columbine.
Yeah, but that we were like right in high school, right when that was happening, and that was like like people really took that seriously, and there was, if you were dressed that way,
Right.
there
the
was
trench coat mafia.
Yeah, there was a huge stigma around it. And I mean, it still happens today, but I do feel like kids being less segregated stylistically is not a terrible thing.
It's not a bad thing, but you used to have a tribe,
Yeah,
You've heard that.
that's
Yeah.
part of
Right,
where I
you know,
think
the tribe that you identify with,
Yeah.
and that's the real trick is letting everybody know, convincing them that I speak for our tribe and we all identify. It's not just about your music; it's making a connection with people.
Yeah.
So I think it could be a good thing. I don't know. Before
good point.
Before we go all around the merry-go-round, I'm going to say it right now. Rock and metal is not dead. It's changing. It's going through evolutions,
Yeah, I
but it's
agree.
absolutely not dead. I mean, there's still some heavy,
Oh, no doubt.
heavy bands. Parkway Drive is killing it,
Yeah.
and they're a heavy
Yeah.
band. and-
Trivium, like they're
yeah.
slaying right
Yep.
now. Like, yeah, I mean, and truthfully, before this pandemic stuff, like all the rock tours, like they changed.
We went to Rock on the Range.
Yeah,
it
no,
was fucking
it's-
huge,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, I mean,
it was huge.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And there was a ton of
Is
like,
that still an 80s thing?
No.
Which
there-
one am I thinking of?
Oh, I do know what you're thinking of. I can't remember the name
Oklahoma
of it.
or something?
No,
There's
it's the one where they have
Rocklahoma.
all the like the '80s metal bands. They have new bands and shit. It's a
It's a
festival.
festival.
It's
yeah,
a festival.
I can't remember the name of it.
No, Lee told me, but I can't remember the name of it.
I don't know.
But I don't.
Oklahoma?
Rocklahoma is a newer one, but
That's-
there's the Carolina Rebellion. But the point I was making is basically that there's just like tons of these, rock festivals that are like obviously turning a profit because they rescheduled all of them for 2021 because people had already bought tons of tickets.
Yeah.
Well, you can see all the 80s bands you wanted at the Oklahoma Pig Festival. When they're playing, right? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said
Let's get out of Northside down there at Rib Fest.
Let's all go down and see Donnie
Wait,
Iris.
so
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I had a story that was given to me, and I'm not going to tell you who the artist was, but I won't do that. I'll do a Fred. I'll dance around the facts. A very popular '80s metal guitar player told me once that he lost his big gig and signed up with another gig to keep paying the bills. Big difference between where he was and what he signed with in a matter of like 6 months. Got the axe and signed up with a new band. He said, I was in Brazil playing in front of 100,000 people. As a guitarist in this major band. Within 6 months, I literally was in Oklahoma playing on 2 flatbed trucks that are pushed side to side
Oh man.
Oh wow.
for a private picnic.
Wow.
And I looked down and they had stuck us over a pig pen. So between the two trailers, I'm playing the guitar, I'm looking down, and there's pigs rolling in mud underneath the trailer. I'm like, yeah, and he goes, talk about the clash of two worlds, right?
That's crazy.
100,000 people, massive festival, pig farm.
Oh my god.
He goes, that is my experience in metal. That's
Wow.
it. That's it. I mean,
Yeah.
I know you know. Just don't say it. I don't want to out anybody.
Names have been changed to protect you.
To protect the guilty. To protect
There
the
you go.
guilty. But yeah, I mean,
Well, that's just the thing, though. Again, and I've talked about this. We go over in Europe, in Japan, and South America. You're playing to 100,000 people.
That's a great
Well,
point.
yeah.
It's still
You're
there.
right.
It's everywhere but here.
Yeah, that's a
You know,
why
great
is
point.
that?
You know what? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
but
you're good.
Someone actually came up with a decent explanation. I think it kind of harks back to what you said is sort of happening with the youth over here. Is like over there, everybody's just into everything. Like you don't have
Yeah.
to be like
Yeah.
in the United States. If you're like older than 14 years old and you're into metal, people kind of expect you to look a certain way, to act a
Right,
certain way. You
right.
know what I mean?
It's still like that then.
Yeah,
It-
no,
it
but
was like that when we were
over
kids,
in
too.
over in Europe, from what I understand, it's very eclectic. You can be into this band and that band. If they hear a metal band and they like them, like people aren't necessarily turned off by heavy music immediately. I don't know. There's almost like
Oh, that's definitely true.
like a stigma here in the United
Yeah.
States.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're a respectable citizen, you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and over there, you have a wide variety of older people that listen to, and you have a lot of young people that listen to metal. And so
Yeah.
you get a large age range, and it's just again over there, it's different things. I watched this movie the other day called Eurovision or whatever. It's Will Ferrell.
Oh, I've heard of this. I've never seen it though.
It's on Netflix, and I laughed so hard because they're doing this European song writing contest, and each country is represented, like Iceland and Germany, and it was just so European, and I thought, I actually said, I really miss touring, because, about, I used to love my yearly trip to Europe, my yearly trip to South America. And I watched this movie and I laughed. And they weren't singing metal, but it's the style of stuff that they have that even the metal over there is kind of fits into like a universal thing where older people listen to it, and because it's melodic.
Especially Sweden, right?
Swedish
The Baltic states were all the black metal, and that's like an institution in the country. There's probably like a
let's go burn a church. Come on.
I think the Swedish national anthem is.
Exactly. I just want to know. All I want to know is, can they tell the logos from band to band?
Oh yes, that's.
So it looks like a bunch of twigs I threw in the corner.
No,
that's
I took a picture of it. That's the logo
No,
of the
I know.
band.
I'm becoming like the millennial generation. I keep bringing up shit I saw on the internet, but it's like, what is it? Fucking bunch of sticks or death metal logo. You know what I mean? Yeah, like when you look at a thicket, there's a bunch of vines and.
This is your name. Or drop them. This is your band's name. Drop them over here.
Hey, whatever works.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's just like a genre thing. You don't have to. Have you ever seen like a big black metal festival? It's just a bunch of squiggly and
all the logos. You can't
you
tell
have
who
to love
knows what.
your band enough to know their logo
Friday.
because you can't fucking
decipher.
read it.
Yeah. Well, I do think too, like one of the things that it speaks to with just like the whole idea of Europe being maybe like more of a. It's not that we're not a melting pot, but it's like I feel like we're kind of maybe more homogenized in the sense that like we had all these different cultures kind of come here and we all sort of like assimilated to each other. And so when something's like on the fringe, it seems really extreme to us, whereas they're like, I feel like maybe their palettes are just like wider, because even like with like art and style and like food and you know what I mean, I just feel like they're just like more accepting
You
of
spent
like
a ton of time over the years touring. I mean, talk about the audience differences.
Oh, I talk about, the Japanese are very polite, but they love their metal.
You didn't step on any
They
random
love
mosh
their
pit over
metal.
there, have you?
Yeah.
And not just baby metal.
Not
oh
just
my
baby metal.
gosh, oh that's a trip. We saw them.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Wait, help me out. What?
Baby metal.
Oh, you don't know about baby metal?
Oh,
Who wants to field this one? I don't know.
take it away.
I'm not quite sure how to explain it to someone who's never seen it. How old are they? They're like 12, 13.
Like little, are they Chinese or Japanese?
They're Japanese.
Japanese.
Okay, Japanese,
Okay.
and
Is that a
they're
female singer?
all
There's-
female. Yeah.
Yeah,
And they do.
And they look like little Japanese schoolgirls.
It sounds like a mix between metal and like the bubblegum music you hear on anime.
There you go.
I don't know how else to
and they're
des-
huge.
Yeah.
It is a
Yeah,
serious.
Rob Zombie will come out and defend them. I've seen him on the internet saying they roll harder than you, bro.
We did some shows with them. And
Did
they
you
were-
really?
Yeah, over
Yeah.
in Japan,
But
yeah.
Kiss did a video and a song with some Japanese all-girl band.
Probably that.
Yeah, that was probably
like
them.
5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
that
when they
sounds.
were hot.
That could
Yeah.
Be, yep.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
has to be them.
Baby
then.
metal.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know it's called baby metal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Baby metal.
You'll have to YouTube it.
Well, YouTube's amazing though, because you'll turn on YouTube and see some like 9-year-old girl in Cambodia, just living in a straw hut, but she somehow's got a nice Ibanez guitar, and it's plugged in, and she's like effortlessly, her mind's somewhere else, just looking around the room. There's a fly over there, but in the meantime, she's playing
Like the most
Steve
complex.
Lukather better than Steve Lukather's playing Steve Lukather.
Yeah, like
It's
a prodigy.
It's unbelievable.
That's one of the things they've been saying that's like happening with the internet is that kids are being exposed to different things so early, and
Right.
so like that it's like really upping their potential. So these prodigies kind of like emerge sooner because they have access to like
Got it.
Yep.
learn all this, these like really amazing songs. Like I've heard a lot of podcasts talk about that actually.
Oh, I see those kids. I want to quit. I'm like, how? I mean,
Well, you know what though? There's always someone better than you, and the guy who's producing us, good friend of mine, guy in the local scene, Lou Caruso. Lee Caruso
Not Lou.
Jr. Not Lou Caruso. They'd be like, dude, you
We
fucked
lo-
up my name. What the fuck?
We love you. We just saw
What are
him
you gonna
last
give me a
night.
shout out for if you can't
First
say
time.
my name right? But he's like, you don't have to be the best. He's like, there's always someone more talented than
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
He said, you just have to do what you do to the best of your ability.
That's what I
and
say.
do it unique. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Find the thing that's you and nobody else, and do it to the best of your ability. He said, man, and I don't even know if this is his thing. Like, how many times have you gone to a local show, Frank? You know what I mean? And you see a guy who is amazing. He's an amazing guitar player, sometimes he's playing other people's music, sometimes he writes his own songs, but
Yeah.
he didn't make it to the place that maybe some other guitar players or musicians did, and they're not technically as skilled, but they do something that he can't, something that you like can't teach people, I guess.
Yeah. Well, look at Angus Young, right? Like, there's no rhyme or reason why AC/DC is that popular
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
and make that and make that much money. I mean, and then like Al Di Meola, some jazz guitarist that I really admire, who's had a nice career, but look at the scales of money. I mean, it's not even close. But that guy is like a genius, you know.
It's so weird, like what pops, like what hits people. You know what I mean? And like what ends up being like universally accepted and just takes off. It's like how they talk about things going viral now. I just think it's so bizarre. Like when you try to like analyze it and figure it out.
Almost can't.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I think people are really trying because we have the technology now with like to like study algorithms and all that stuff.
Right.
But I think there's just something about human nature that like there are certain things that just, for whatever reason, appeal to us on like a larger scale.
We were kids, Fred. It was the pet rock.
Hey, rocks are universal. I still love
rock.
love a good rock.
I mean, I've seen street musicians that were just mind blowing.
Yeah.
And you're wondering why is this?
Yeah.
Why didn't he ever make it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and that goes. Yeah, I mean, I remember kids that the guys that taught me how to play, they were amazing, and I thought these guys are going to go places. You know, and just they're still around. You know,
Went to Sheets after work.
yeah.
They went somewhere.
But the thing is actually a lot of people from Pittsburgh have made it out of Pittsburgh and did well.
No doubt.
Not just the Red Beaches and stuff like
Paul
that.
Gilbert.
And Paul from Greensburg. I remember meeting him when I was a kid, We actually ran into each other over in Japan, and we started talking. Man, we didn't do too bad. We're over here in Japan, over in Tokyo, shooting the shit. But the thing is, a lot of people that went to the Guitar Gallery out in McMurray,
Yep.
like three of the teachers ended up in like Guitar World magazine, like in the spotlight column. A lot of those guys up there went on to work for companies in the music business, Digitech, Seymour Duncan. These guys have all been, they've all gone and done things in the business, but it's just not so much a band thing or a
front
playing
and
thing
center
anymore.
kind of thing.
And that's kind of what I did. You know what I mean? I was supposed to play, but I didn't. I ended up finding a niche as a tech, and I think I did better being a tech than I ever would have if I would have stayed
Dude,
playing.
I've listened to some like really interesting interviews with techs that like, I forgot. It was like, I listened to this one podcast for a while called Lead Singer Syndrome, and I don't know if it was something I heard from that, but it was the tech that was talking actually went from being like in rock and then he went to country, and he was talking about just like how much better he was treated.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like in bands and rock music
ahead,
too, and
Fred.
I can't remember who it was, but he was in bands in rock, and then he also was a tech in rock, and then he got an offer to be a tech in country, and he's like, I like my life better. I'm happier.
Yeah.
I'm treated well. I make bank.
But
And
I don't really think it's the genre, though. I think it's the actual individual
It's-
organization.
Well,
But I heard you were like, Fred knows all about being mistreated in rock and roll.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to have a thick skin, I guess.
Oh, I've got leather.
We were just talking about that.
That's not a jacket, baby.
That's my skin.
Wow.
But that's exactly it. I mean, I've had other offers that I kick myself in the ass for not taking, and and these guys, they're like, dude, it's just great. I actually. The thing that motivated me was money, because back in the day, country didn't pay. And I'd have my buddies going, hey, man, I can get you this gig. It pays pretty good. It pays about, $1,000 a week. And I'm like, because the metal guys were still living in the 80s, and they're paying a lot more than, $750, $1,000 a week, but now it's turned around where, hey, man, country's the big thing, and they got a great life. Man, we only work from Thursday to Sunday. They fly you home, you meet at the Walmart, and they've got, great salaries and great jobs and great gigs, and everybody's nice, and it's...
Well, that's where the money's at, too. I'd imagine, I would imagine, I don't know, Beyonce's band. I'm sure they pay their staff pretty well. I mean,
Does
they
she
big
have a
tours.
band?
I don't know.
She's got something.
He's got somebody on
I would
stage.
imagine.
She's got an ensemble.
got
I know
staff.
Nuno Betancourt was playing. Was it her or who was he playing for?
Nuno was playing for Rihanna.
Rihanna,
Yeah.
right.
And that's what's great.
I love Rihanna, by the way.
All these metal guys went on to play for pop bands, and like all the shredders back in the day, like
Yeah.
when I like
Right.
Greg Howe and
Right.
Nuno and all
Yep.
that, they all play for Rihanna or
Backstreet Boys.
and these cats
Hanson.
because that's what's paying the money,
Right.
you know.
Right. Well, and that sucks when you have to pick between money or your passion. You know?
Yeah, but it's still playing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's still playing.
Yeah. No, and I mean, if you want to be in the music business, it's been beat into
Would
my
you write
head.
a pop song? If you had a guaranteed track for, as much of a guarantee as someone can offer you, but you had a guaranteed track to make money, would you write a pop song?
I'd write a pop song just for fun.
I was about to say,
If you want to pay me to do it, what are we talking? No, seriously. I mean, I used to sing in church, and it was really
There you go.
different. Really different. We were doing contemporary kind of stuff you hear on K-Love. You know what I mean? Get like Lincoln Brewster, the kind of stuff that's like it's worship music, but it's like it's rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I loved singing it. I got to learn to use my voice in
Right.
different ways. I don't know. And some people are real specific, like this is what I like and this is what I hate.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you. I love music. I mean, I love music now. Professionally, I think there's a little bit of a line for me where I'm just like, this is my art, and I know that I need to try and make it marketable if I want it to go anywhere, unless I'm comfortable just playing in my bedroom by myself. You know what I mean? I think there's like this fine line between this is how I market myself and this is the line I don't cross, because I'm going to lose what it is that makes what I do worth doing.
Right.
And I mean, how many bands, they always say, oh, this band sold out. I don't know if bands sell out as much as they get too far away from what they love to do and then forget how to do it. And I'm not going to name names, but I've seen bands be like, well, we're going back to our roots. We're going to play something heavy. And some people fall for it, and I listen to it. I'm like, it ain't the old stuff, bro. It ain't the old stuff, bro. And it's almost like you just lose touch with that thing, that special thing. I don't know.
Why is that, though? Do you think is it symptomatic of changing times, or is it just symptomatic of there's only so many power chords?
I think there's a great debate to be had there, because I'm sure you've heard people say that, they hate on people for just developing and progressing as an artist. And
Well, Metallica's taking it. I think one of
That's
the
who I
biggest
was
metal
thinking of.
bands in
Yeah.
the world.
I
They've
knew
taken it
that's exactly
so
what they're about.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're laughing all the way to the bank, but
Sure, they sell out
every night.
Every night.
Yeah,
They
right.
sold out every
I
night.
can't remember who it was Lee was talking about. He's like, oh, that makes me, if people saying I sold out, that makes me so sad. I want to climb to the top of my wallet and jump off it and kill myself.
That's great.
The thing is, these bands, when they come up, they're sleeping on a floor,
Eating
all
ramen
five.
noodles.
They're eating
Couch
ramen
surfing.
noodles. They're sleeping on somebody's couch, They're miserable, and they're writing songs about it that are raw and aggressive.
Right.
And that was metal back in the day. That's
Yeah.
how these guys came up. That's how Metallica came up. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
Right.
And
Life's not too edgy when you're a multimillionaire.
that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Once you get, and you kind
Happened to Kiss.
of,
They were really raw in the beginning.
you can't remember what it's like to
Hurt.
and that's what's great is you see these guys, I'm clean, I'm clean, I'm sober,
As soon as they get clean, they're fucked.
because
creatively, right?
No, but I've heard that. Joe Rogan talks about that in comedy a lot, because he talks about how different comedians will get sober, and some of them are still really funny, and some of them really struggle. And I think the same thing happens with any
Exactly.
art. Stephen King, when he got sober, he struggled with writing. You know what I mean? Like,
because you're so used to thinking in that mind. I can't write without being. That's what I was bitching about. I'm trying to write this book and not drink.
Yeah.
And it's just like when I used to sit and I used to get plastered and I'd be sitting and I would just be glued to my computer writing short stories. I kind of lost, now that I'm not drinking. I'm like sitting there going,
Don't believe that shit.
well, I can't find, and I can get so far, and I'm doing well with it, but that angst and that spark, sometimes I was searching for it. I'm starting to get it back now, but I think that's what happens to a lot of these bands is they get so far away once they got the money, things aren't hard anymore. They forget what it was like to sleep on a couch with.
But it's a new life, though. There's new experiences. The money brings new people
and new struggles,
and absolutely. So, but it is different from what they had prior, and that difference sometimes isn't received well from the audience.
There's a sound of a shitty Marshall and a Les Paul special. It's a lot different from a Marshall full stack and or Mezza Boogie and a Jackson. A lot of these guys, the production values get better now. They're over. They got to put out the best product ever. Where the punk rock approach or I was broken, I made this raw sounding record which turns you on.
Yeah.
It's not there. It doesn't.
Right.
It's not translated because you know what? We got to put 3 overdubs on that.
Right.
Whereas before it's
Start
like
I'll think themselves.
we
that's
could
what I
only
was
afford.
thinking.
We could only afford this, and we go in and bang out a record, and that's how it is. And that's a difference in as a band progressives, the more money you're going to get, the better, the more slicker production
Yeah.
you're going to have.
Yeah.
I mean, listen.
Do the fans generally like that? I mean, it's a pretty open question, but
Short answer, yes. They like better
because
production.
it's ear candy.
Well, no, but it's a double-edged sword because just like Fred was saying, like eventually it gets to the point where great sound production. Dude, I mean, come and think about it. If producers were able to put a bunch of fucking Muppets up there and just tell them what to play and have it be a hit song, they wouldn't put up with musicians.
Yep.
They wouldn't put up with wrestling in the fucking hotel at the Ritz-Carlton, you know what I mean? It's destroying the place. Like, musicians are a huge pain. I deal with them all the time. I am one. She lives with one. We're a tremendous pain in the ass.
I'm not kidding.
We're a tremendous pain in the ass. Like, everyone's like, well, they're going to make you sell out and they're going to tell you what to write. No, they're not. Because if they could do it without me, they wouldn't scoop me up off the fucking street and stick me on stage to
Throw
do
you
it.
back up to do it.
Yeah, fuck it. They'd just be like, we're going to do it. You know what I mean? We can find some people to dress up,
But I heard from a couple, I don't know if it's Sid Riggs told this to me in a off-camera interview discussion or during the discussion on camera, but he said something if in the 80s, in the early 90s, if a producer could eliminate the musician, meaning the producer was so important then, really important in that era. I kind of agree with him. If they could eliminate the musician but get the job done, they would absolutely fucking eliminate the musician.
I know people that's happened.
Sure, yeah, and that makes perfect sense. You're absolutely right because honestly, like I think it's that combination sometimes of like that raw energy, like you're talking about, and then someone kind of facilitating a way to package it and present it so that it has a wider audience. Because like the punk rock and approach is going to resonate with like a certain demographic, but if you want something to be like widely successful, you've got to reach all different people.
I'm so torn on that punk rock thing because I'm not a big punk rock fan. I just happen to really dig the Sex Pistols, though. But I think the reason I like them is because there was one record, and when I listened to that record, outside of Rotten's voice, which is different, but if you listen to the production quality of that record, that's a fucking rock and roll record. That's not like a garage band. It's there's an element of production there, and I think that's what I think resonates with my rock sensibilities.
Right.
But even that needed to be polished. They polished the turd. They had to polish because live they were hideous. I mean, you go back and watch those VHS tapes or old YouTube clips of them. They were not something you'd want to even go see in a garage for free. But I think you can't discount the benefits. Am I right? Of solid production.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that was kind of my point. Is like listen to Metallica's first album. I like Kill 'Em All. I don't like it as much as I like Ride the Lightning and fucking Master of Puppets. But I will also say that I don't like, even though I'm not a hater, I love the Black Album, but I don't like the songs on the Black Album as much as I like the songs on And Justice. There's a sweet spot where you get to the point where we've reached, you know what I mean, where we have the production value, but we haven't lost touch with that thing I was talking about earlier. You know what I mean? Because that's just what I was saying. Like, people do like that production value, aside from like...
Well, it's ear candy. There's the science. I'm convinced of this, that there is a scientific formula thrown in the productions that is...
Oh, that's the truth.
And they tune that...
with frequencies and...
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's why
links
There's
and everything
certain
else.
frequencies that your ear just likes to hear, especially people who go to like Berkeley and stuff. I mean, they study that in depth.
How to write a pop song. It's
Yeah,
gotta
well,
be
no, but
included in that.
there's production, and then there's also, I mean, there's a totally separate side of it where you're just working with really talented songwriters.
Right.
We just went through it with our album. It was the first time we worked with a producer, and usually, you know, we write a song, we fuck with it for a little while, we take it in the studio, and it's like, hey, that's our song. And this was the first time we actually worked with someone who really knows how to write a song. And he's like, no, we got to take your whole song apart. And he keeps saying, it's my buddy Lee. He's like, well, we got to see what's going on. What's going on with this verse here? What's going on with this verse? I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking? It's a verse. That's what's going on with it. And it took me a long time to see, like, everything that's in that song is in there for a reason. No matter how cool the part is or how good it sounds, if it doesn't have a reason, save it for another song or do something else with it. You know what I mean? Like, really talented songwriters is you when you have a marriage, I feel like, between a really talented producer who knows a lot about songwriting and a really good artist who has something to say and something to express, that is where great songs come from, aside from your prodigies they're just amazing.
Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on artist boredom. Case in point, talked about the band that probably you two don't like too much, but the band Rush. They had one producer from the first album all the way up to Signals in '82. So for the first 9 years of that band, they had one producer. Not that everything sounded the same, but there was somewhat of a vibe and a concept to that
Common
music.
thread.
Absolutely. When they fired Terry Brown, or whatever the arrangement was, they jumped with different producers almost every album since, and maybe repeating once or twice, but nothing that came after Terry Brown ever, if you ask a Rush fan, ever will resonate like the stuff with Brown. Yeah, with Brown. So you can't rewrite history, of course, but that's a great example, I think, of how if a band permits it, a producer can absolutely change the vibe of a band.
Oh, 100%.
More than the
100%.
era. More than the era. The era has something to do with it, you know, electric music and all that, but the producer, the lack thereof, or the addition of a new producer changed that band.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll use
Big time.
Metallica as an example. Who was it? Bob
Rock.
Bob Rock.
Did Black
The
Album.
same way you were talking about hardcore Rush fans blame the loss of this producer, if you talk to hardcore Metallica fans who loved them in the 80s, they're going to blame Bob Rock for what they consider to be
Right.
the death of Metallica, because he was basically the one who
He was
helped
a
them.
pop. They say he was a pop. He brought pop
He
elements
produced
to
the
their,
Black Album, and
which just sounds amazing.
It really does.
I mean,
I'm not a
production
hater, dude.
Production
No.
values are unbelievable.
I
on
don't
that
care who you are. I don't think you could sit there and tell me that that's not a good album. Even if you don't prefer it over what they were writing before, that's an amazing album. But then you get to the point where then they put out Load, and it was just like, I loved Load. As a hardcore Metallica fan, I was like, I just don't like that this is all that Metallica is. And like, if they would have decided to put this out as like a side project or something, I really
Right.
would have liked it.
Right.
I don't know, I'm not going to talk a bunch of shit, but I think there is something to be said for, you know, the industry. I mean, it's music business. Like,
It's a business.
yeah,
You're there.
that's
Yeah,
and
I
that's
say
what
that all the
fans
time.
don't care about.
They don't
you
even
know
want
what
to
I
hear
mean?
about it.
No.
They don't-
No.
And it's definitely not part of them critiquing any band.
Sure.
And bands that are fortunate enough to quote unquote get over and make it, you know, we all have bands that we love. Metallica, the bands that last for a long time. And as fans, one of the great things about fandom is you can go back and look at their career. And you can say, oh, this period, that period. And if they're long enough and they in the last 20, 30, 40 years, there could be 5 periods in there.
Yeah.
But the essence of what they were, we all kind of romanticize about these bands staying what they started out to be. It just doesn't. That's life. It just doesn't work that way, right?
Not really realistic.
AC/DC. That's the only one that's ever done
Yeah,
it.
pretty much.
Same 3 chords.
It might be.
Yeah, and I was about
It
to
might
say,
be.
and that's when I reacted to AC/DC, I was like, I can't figure out why they're so popular. Their songs sound the same. If you heard one
Yeah.
song, you heard them all. And it's like, you always want your favorite band to stay the same, and AC/DC is a great example of what happens if they stay the same and don't evolve. And I
But
mean,
everything.
Is that a good thing, you know?
And
I think
but
you're
to
fucked
your-
either
but
way.
to your point, though, great point. That after, let's just say, I guess maybe in 1984, I think, for those about the rock, that was kind of like the last big record for them. Everything else, every couple of years, was fly on the wall. I think was it. Nothing really sold well. They were popular as a live act.
Yeah.
But material-wise, nothing remarkable. I think there's the one song with the crazy guitar riff.
Thunderstruck.
Yeah, Thunderstruck. That was an outlier.
Yeah, that was popular.
But generally, that whole bank of music,
It was just one big downhill slide.
it kind of was, but it kept them relevant, and it put them out on the road where they were able to make
were
their
still
money.
selling big shows.
Absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
that's how you make money now, though. Staying on
It's
the road.
the only way.
It's the only way you can make money. Staying on the road.
And that's what I was going to say. What you were talking about is the different iterations of bands, and you can talk about when Sabbath had Dio, and it's like there's all these different like almost different eras, different chapters of a band. I don't know if we're going to see that. I'm not going to say that we won't, but it's like they used to look at a band and be like, well, where are they going to be at 3 albums from now, and kind of plan that out from an industry standpoint. They're not fucking doing that.
No, I
now.
mean, they're like single to single right now.
Yeah, I'm only
pretty
a
much.
guy in a local
Yeah.
band with a mom and pop promotion company, but I know they're not doing that shit anymore.
The loss of albums and the loss of the format of the albums is heartbreaking to me.
Well, and here, so before we go down that rabbit hole,
Sure.
one more thing is that I think that one of the things that's happening now with, electronic music is that people are paying a lot more attention to like producers because of like hip hop and beats and stuff like that, and like in different, and I think that that's like a cross genre
No
kind
doubt.
of evolution that's happening with younger people, because I mean, I'm not younger people necessarily, so I don't really know that many
To us, you
producers.
are.
I mean, but not to me, like what I'm looking at. I mean, when they look at like the industry, they're looking at like 14-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like that's who's going to lay the groundwork for what's going to sell in the next 10 years. Because by now, we always have streaming services and we're listening to what we're listening to.
Well, young people are the ones that spend the money.
Yeah, I mean, merch, tickets, like all that stuff. Like they're what really is going to drive
How
the market.
much money's being spent? I mean, with live events, I get it, but how much money downloading wise? How much money?
Well, that's the thing. People don't download anymore. It's all
So it's
streaming.
streaming services.
And there is a lot of money being made, and very little of it is
Goes to
going
the
to the
artist.
artist. Yeah,
Right.
from what I understand, there was like the huge crash where the music industry just took a massive shit, and the money is come back because they have streaming rather than all the music being free and people stealing songs and stuff. A lot of it is people are willing to pay for these streaming services. The artists are getting
Murdered.
raped,
Yeah.
and
Well,
then murdered.
And it's
Yeah,
hard
yeah,
because the
yeah.
model itself, if you're an entrepreneur and you're an artist that wants to sell your own music and remain independent, you can reap all of those benefits and basically collect all of your revenue now. You know what I mean?
In
Because
theory, how many are actually doing it? though?
Exactly. And that's the thing that's interesting is that, like, I think that it can happen. And, like, from all the industry podcasts I've listened to, there are musicians that are successful based on being independent, selling their own music online. I just don't think it's the norm. I think it would have been like back in the day when the music industry was really like thriving, it might have been a long shot, but if you, like you used to always talk about, like if you got that long shot and you hit that mark, like you could have a career and you can make bank and do well. And
that's
now it's
the
like
problem right now is it was like you got to win the fucking lottery, but if you do, you could end
Yeah.
up Bon Jovi and have
Right.
fucking 12-car garage. And now
Right.
it's like you're gonna hit the lottery, and guess what? You're still running the rat race.
And
You're
you're still
not
gonna
rich.
basically be broke.
A lot of your bandmates, if not all of your bandmates, still have day jobs. Like I mean, right now, I don't know. I just from what I understand, the talent is really not being taken care of. Like Fred said, you got to tour constantly, like 9
360
months.
deals
9
killed
months.
killed the artist.
That plus, I mean, you're not making money on your album anymore. The album used to be the product, you know.
Not anymore.
Yeah, it's like a
Well,
fucking promotional
and-
tool for
yeah.
your live show and for your merchandise.
Exactly. They
Yeah.
use the tour to support the album sales.
and then circling back to the death of the album, you go on to like, the
Yeah, they used to tour to support the album. Now it's the other way
When we were
around.
kids.
not just that, but it's like you look
It's like
at
the whole model flipped upside down.
well, and the attention span thing of like, think about how many people in the generations that are coming up like will have the motivation to sit down and listen to an album from start to finish and just listen to it because that's what they're doing. Because like how many forms of media did we have coming
Right.
up? Like, you
That's
know
a
what I
good
mean?
point.
Like, because they talk about like, you develop your musical tastes like between, 14 and like, 20 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Those are like your thriving teenage years where you're experiencing the most angst, your hormones are crazy. And like, that's when your music really hits you.
My hormones are still crazy.
I know, baby.
All right, I forgive you for telling the guitar story. We're good.
Oh, we can go down that road if you'd like to.
Oh man. But anyway, so like you totally got me. I don't blush often. I'm totally distracted. Never mind. Change the subject.
Well,
Death of the album.
I'll throw this question out because I've asked it a few times on this show with some interesting answers. Is music now disposable?
You asking me? Or
It's an open question.
are we supposed to answer from ourselves, or do we think like in the current climate?
Is music disposable?
I don't think so. It's hard to like put myself in the position of someone that doesn't feel the way I feel about music, though, because music saved my life. You know what I mean? Like there were times that like I wanted to die, and music made me not want to die.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so like I don't, but I think that still happens.
Sure.
And
it
that's
does.
what I mean. I think that like as long as there's at least, like enough people that still feel that way, then like how could someone say that? But industry wise and like financially and I don't know, like that's where.
What do you think, Fred? Because you've seen the change. You were on the inside. You were tight with a lot of artists.
I've seen.
I'm gonna do a Rogan on you. Get closer to the microphone. Huh? Jesus Christ, man! How many fucking times you been on this show? You haven't figured out you got talking to the microphone.
It's not my show. I'm observing. I'm loving it. So, music is not disposable, at least not to me. But it has changed in so much from when, like you said, when we were kids. Everything's flipped, but people still need to have that thing that they like. It actually brings about something inside a person, and like you said, between 14 and 20 or whatever, that's where you get developed. Imagine what it would be like if we didn't have music. What
God, what an awful thought.
I think we all just like
what our
cry a
personalities
little
would be.
inside.
You know what I mean? It makes you happy. It makes you cry. Here it is. All these years later, do you still have that song that from your childhood that makes you think or makes you cry or makes you think of somebody from so long ago? And I think that's in that sort of sense, it'll never be disposable. It'll always have to be as much as.
I know it's
people try to crush
Boy
it.
George from you, right?
Hey man, karma.
See, I told you.
But
Karma Chameleon.
but the thing is
Love that song.
if it's
I love your hair, Fred. I love your hair. Can I smell your hair, Fred?
Oh my God.
No, you may not smell his hair during the show. Afterwards, I don't care what you two fine gentlemen do in the hallway.
Man.
but the
I
thing is,
can't take you anywhere.
his hormones are raging.
All the time.
Still.
For all these years.
But the thing is as a product, it's not. It's being controlled. You know what I mean? And it's great that we still have people that love metal, and we're still trying to keep it alive. You know what I mean? Even though you go to other countries, it's raging. It's great. In the States, it's an afterthought. And if they could, because it's not making money here. And to go over to Europe, because things are more expensive in Europe. You got to pay to go. If you got to pay to go to Japan, you got to pay to go to South America for these bands.
They'll pay it.
And like I said, over there, they have these great metal bands that never make it over here that you'd never hear of. And they're huge over there. But over here,
That's awesome, though.
But over
Yeah.
here, it's as easy as hitting a beat, and you've got the next track. You hit the beat, hit a keyboard, have somebody throw some lyrics down.
Okay,
And
that goes to like the other part of that question is, if you take the word disposable in terms of the viewpoint of a younger person, someone in their teens, they have been conditioned because it's all they know. They don't know what a CD is. They don't know what an album is outside of the retro big things that I can buy now, platters, right? But the way they've had music brought to them and the way they have experienced music, the format of it lends to the concept of disposable. They're not buying full albums, they're buying singles, or they're sharing singles, or they're enjoying a single. They don't have the concept of, what is an album? What did this artist? What was this artist trying to say, if anything, in these collection of 8 songs on one recording?
Yeah, but here's the thing: in different genres, I think I don't know how to say this. Okay, my buddy who I worked with, hi Ryan. he'll watch this whole show just to hear his name.
You should have waited to the end.
Yeah,
yeah.
good call. Hey Ryan, I'm gonna say something funny at the end about you and me.
It's gonna out you somehow.
I'll tell a little work story. He listens to hip hop and he would talk about all the different beef that different hip-hop artists had and all the different personal things and, oh, well, this artist was cool until they lost their mom, then he turned into a dick. And I just feel like, I mean, they talk about it on their albums and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, Eminem will talk about how he was going at it with another hip-hop artist, and I feel like, I hate to say it, but the drama nowadays, it's a little bit more engaging than, oh man, what about Pink Floyd and the evolution in between animals in this next album?
It was
you
more
know what I
esoteric.
mean? Like,
it was more esoteric because it was left up to our own imagination. Now
Yeah,
there's
but-
so much social media, you're hearing it right out of his mouth.
there's
You're
an
hearing it
artistic
as it happens.
There was an artistic journey, and you really had to love and care about a
Amen.
band. Plus, like the art, like you,
Great
you were saying,
point.
Eric, like the artwork. You know what I mean? And you just like you
Immersed
it's-
yourself in
It's like I was about to say, there was like this whole world that you stepped into, like with Iron Maiden and all these cool fucking album covers. Like I bought all these cassettes, and then the CDs came out like a year later. I was like, fuck, I gotta buy all that shit all
And
over
then those
again.
cassettes sound so bad
I
after
still have
about
the cassettes. I was
100
like,
plays,
fuck
right?
you. But anyway, like I think nowadays, and I don't know, you could blame the internet and smartphones or technology or whatever, but like, you know, it's like, and when I'm creating content for my project, I'm always like, I gotta create something that's instantly like, even if you don't give a fuck about my band, I want to put something out there that as soon as you see it, it's either funny, it's entertaining, it makes you feel like, even if you're not even interested in what
Right.
I'm talking about, I gotta grab you right away. Like,
have to.
if it's 15 seconds before I finally catch you and hook you, I've lost you. And it's just like, I don't know if it's disposable as much as music nowadays is a very right now thing, you
It's
know?
instant gratification.
Yeah.
We live in a society of instant gratification, and if you don't get that,
Yeah, that
if you don't
immediate...
snag them
Yeah,
right
there
away.
are so many choices.
I need a dopamine hit.
Well, and that's honestly
many
really
choices.
interesting because that's what they talked about the social media platforms were created by people that create casinos. So the same thing that makes you want to pull.
No,
slot.
they're helping design them.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So it's
the
all
colors
the same
and
people.
the layout.
They
And
create
so-
the addiction.
Yeah, exactly. So the same thing that makes you want to pull that lever on a slot machine or
Yep.
push that button or whatever is
To
the
feed
same
that impulse.
thing that's being done in Instagram and Facebook and
Mm.
Twitter and all that other stuff. And so it's like you said, like we are super addicted as a society to like our own brain chemistry because we found ways to tap into it like instantaneously all the time. And so music becomes a byproduct of that in a lot of ways because it's like
a good point.
we're accessing it through the same portals that we're accessing our own brain chemistry constantly.
You want followers in music, and that's how to do it. The more followers you have, the more popular a band is.
Yeah.
And you have to have the drama, because what do people do on social media?
Yeah.
They engage in drama.
Yeah. And I'll
You
be
got a Facebook and an Instagram.
Instagram. You put our dirt on the internet.
Yeah.
And that's what they want to hear.
I think-
Because that's why these people tune into these reality shows, not to see the good, wholesome family
Yeah,
content
right
of
about
it.
that. It's not about the lighter side of humanity.
They want to see dirt and shit and blah, blah, blah. And that's what's happening.
Because it makes us feel like we're not that fucked up.
Let's say like
Look
superior.
at those people.
Yeah,
Plus,
can you-
it's instant. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like people, and I hate to say it, but like they always talk about how small-minded people love to talk about other people.
Yeah.
You know.
It's
Yeah.
like absolutely true.
Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't matter how intellectual you are, unless you're one of these out there weirdos. Like I'm on social media. You know what I mean? I'm guilty of it. I know when I'm trying to design content for our socials, I know that whatever I'm doing, I cannot have someone click away from the social media platform that they're on. I will lose
Right.
90% of the people who would have taken an interest because I know me when I'm
Yeah.
scrolling, even if I'm interested,
Right.
I'm literally like, I have to click away, meaning it's literally going to reroute me. It's going to take 3 or 4 seconds to load. I don't fucking have time for that. You know what I mean? Like,
And meanwhile, like,
you
what
used to
else?
have to wait for a whole pot of coffee. Now I'm standing there. It's like 30 seconds for the cure, and I'm like, Jesus
right,
Christ, I've got
I know.
things to do. Yeah, but
Instant
We're
gratification.
conditioned.
Yeah.
All of us are conditioned.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think people are naturally like that anyway. Like, I don't think that's a new thing to society or a new thing to
no,
like
wanting
our
what
culture.
you want and wanting it right now is
But
not
it's
new.
it's just that it's so much easier now. Like it's so accessible, and we have so many portals and so many pathways to be like, okay, I want this thing right now. I want to feel this thing right now. I want to,
Yeah.
and we
and
still think it's not fast enough.
no, exactly, for sure, yeah.
No, technology and commercialism and consumerism, it's basically how do we get people to pay attention to this. And right now, I mean, that's on social media. You know, I mean, there's big dollars for. I need you to get people to pay attention to my ad for 10 seconds longer, and I'm
No
willing to
doubt.
spend millions of dollars if the information coming back shows me that you are, whatever it is you're doing with my marketing campaign, has a person stare at this ad for 5 seconds longer per average view. For some companies, that is worth over $1 million.
right.
You know what I mean?
People are paying big bucks. Rock stars are paying big bucks for other people to handle their Instagram account.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
To-
That's a huge
and their social.
business.
It's become a business.
Absolutely.
Just so they stay relevant for that 10 seconds longer,
Yep.
and they get the data and stuff back, because that's what's important now. That's what makes money.
Well-
That's what it's all about, your followers.
Yeah, and the internet is a sea of content. And they always say, look, the internet was the greatest and the worst thing to happen to artists, because now you can get your art or your music or your photography or whatever it is, a painting, you can get it to the entire free known world. Not even just first world countries, but now second world countries. I mean, think about it. You
But there
need
was
to be
a
in a
word
third
in
world
there.
country to not have access to the internet right
But there
now.
was a word in that statement
Yeah.
you just said.
Yeah.
Free.
Yeah. Yep.
You can get it to the free world.
Well, you can see entire
for
concerts
free.
online.
Yeah.
You can
Right.
you can play here. This is no shit.
I know.
When we did the Big Four in Sofia, Bulgaria,
That was a while ago.
that was a while ago. I was able to go to the bus and already download the show.
Yeah.
Because someone had uploaded.
Yeah, that quick. That quick. Yep.
And it was that fast. And I had it before Metallica was done playing. I had the Megadeth show.
Huh.
And it was. I went to the bus, and just it was there, and I was able to get it. And
We used to be amazed by that.
yeah,
I know,
just like
I know,
that was
right?
expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yup.
Well, that's like Jonna always talks about, our friend Jonna from First Angel Media. She's like, the turnaround time that's expected for concert photography is so fast. You know what I mean? Like, whereas like, and it's like that with
Yeah,
just
she's like, do you know what I have to do to these photos? Like,
to make them look the way that
yeah,
they do.
like
and
I have to. She has to edit them, and she takes time, and it's almost like an art form, like post production with the photos. Because live concert photography, like there's plenty of photographers who won't even touch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dude, when I see a photographer at a local show, especially at a big national show, dude, there's lights everywhere. Who gives a fuck if you're using your flash? I will literally look at a dude and be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Oh, yeah, no,
using a flash,
I have
like, and
offended
like we
many
actually
people.
paid someone to come in and do the lights, and
Yeah.
you're flashing
away.
No,
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
had people
she
give me
knows how-
dagger eyes because, like, that's part of the crowd control when you're a promoter. Is like
Right.
you got to make sure that the crowd's happy,
Right.
and it's like the stage is right there, and you're flashing, and you're right in front of like the entire crowd. And
Live concert photography is something that a lot of professional shooters won't even touch. But
And that's even evolved too. Like, so the first concert I shot as a hobbyist was the Paul Stanley show in 2006, and I had my flash ready to go. And Fred's looking at me because I had no idea what I was doing. And Fred's like, "You're not taking that flash out of there, right? Because Paul was going to like kill you, and you wanted to start a business relationship, and he's going to kill you." What do you mean I'm taking my flash? Of course I'm taking my flash out there. Because you don't get
no,
it.
you're
man.
not.
He grabs the flash off my Nikon and goes, "Here you go. Now go up there and shoot." I'm like, "Well, I can't shoot that a flash because you better fucking learn quick."
Figure it out.
The point was,
better figure out some f-stops.
I
buddy.
had to figure it out.
Yeah.
I had to figure it out. But even getting the opportunity to shoot Kiss for like 2010, 11, 12, 13-ish, even then, the turnaround still wasn't quite like it is now. There still was
You had a
they were
grace
waiting
period.
at least a day or two that I could get the edited photos. Now, it's like they want them like by the end of the show.
Yeah. Yeah, they want
Or they're
something
being
to post
uploaded
that
down-
night.
And
They
some of
want-
these photographers are so good, and they're getting it right in camera that it literally it's uploading from the camera
Yeah.
Oh,
wirelessly
yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
straight to the site.
Yeah.
That definitely changed. That
Well,
definitely changed
and that's
a
like
lot.
that's just one more example. And like it's funny because like especially now during COVID, obviously we're not seeing people nearly as often,
Right.
and like sometimes like I'll purposely wait a couple days to post a few pictures just because I'm like it's nice to like have that anticipation.
Absolutely.
And then a couple of days later and you see the post, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that was really nice when we all got together. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's
without
like,
the anticipation, I think ultimately we discard content. I mean, something could be amazing, but because it's available right after an event,
Yeah.
I think we don't enjoy it. We watch it, okay, it's good, and then we discard it right away because we're on to the next thing. That anticipation brings value.
You
Yeah.
know what? I think you really just touched upon something that I didn't know how to articulate earlier. Music is not disposable. content is disposable.
Nice.
Interesting. Everybody's back from their little break. Except Fred, of course.
He's got his hair,
He's a
his majestic mane over there.
Oh my God! I've been putting up with that majestic mane for a long time.
It smells good.
That's what I heard. That's the word on the street.
Oh man,
Or the club.
round the club.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so yeah. So to continue the theme, and then we'll move away from it. You mentioned earlier that demographics, in regards to music demographics, have kind of blurred, right? So you got hip hop, and you have hip hop and country. There was a hit last year, or whatever, that which some people are pissed off about it, which is ridiculous to me to be bothered by something like that. But would you say people are more accepting now of the new landscape of these genres just meshing together and not being so specific?
I don't know if they're being more accepting, but it's selling.
Yeah.
Well, they must be. Then,
I
right?
was very confused the first time I heard country and hip hop. Just because
Yeah, it's such a,
I don't think you were the only one.
no.
I'm not gonna lie, I was just like, are they spoofing something? I didn't.
Yeah, right?
Like normally you hear something new, you're like, oh, that's interesting. This I was like, wait, they're what?
You gotta see this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a culture shock thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's two things.
Yeah.
But hey, like when they first way back, what was it? What was it? Biohazard and Public Enemy way back in the day?
Run DMC
Run
and
DMC and
Aerosmith.
Aerosmith.
Yeah.
Come on, people were
Anthrax.
probably like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah, but they made it work. And I mean, honestly, like, I do think that there's, like, a lot of benefit to that happening. And don't get me wrong, like, I still like metal and rock that is just, I mean, the production has some, like, electronic elements to it. But I mean,
But roots.
yeah, and I mean, but I also, like, I remember coming up in, like, the 90s and, like, industrial music was really popular.
yeah.
So it was still very, like, in that vein of, like, heavy music, but there was so much, like, electronic stuff.
So like Ministry and I'm going way back to the start of that.
KMFDM.
It came a little afterwards, didn't it?
I mean, I'm thinking even, like, Nine Inch Nails, like,
Yeah,
sort
Nine
of
Inch Nails
strikes
and
me as
Ministry. I remember
industrial.
those two guys.
But yeah, like, I feel like that, like, to me I really liked it because I think, like, just like that leftover kind of, like, dark, like, sound of, like, Depeche Mode and like that kind of stuff was
I
like
love
really
Depeche Mode.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, I like Depeche
do
Mode.
too.
Yeah, so it's like
Enjoy the
you
silence.
oh my gosh, I used to listen to that record like every night. But yeah, I just kind of feel like that, like, leftover, like kind of vibe was still popular, and then you've kind of got these newer, heavier elements coming into it. And to me, like, that was a whole new thing, but it was really good and appealing. And
Yeah.
so, like,
so that was a blend.
yeah. And when I hear, like, some of, like, the new Bring Me the Horizon is super poppy, and
Yes, it is. They're definitely one of those bands that went through a major
Right.
change because they Bring Me the Horizon. I never even used to listen to their
Me
old
either.
stuff. I had heard of them.
Yeah.
I would see their T-shirts in Hot Topic.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
how I'd heard, but I never listened to their music. And our friend Jason, if we don't mention Jason, he'll
Oh,
be all
geez.
kinds of butthurt.
Jason
I have a
from-
funny
from the
Jim.
Crucible
What were we
Project
talking? You were like, I
in
can't take you anywhere.
Oh my God.
I got to tell that Jim story. I'll wait a minute though. But he was like, have you heard? Here's the reason that people are so upset about the music that they're doing now. Their old stuff is like gritty, crunchy, like
Yeah.
growling vocals and stuff.
Yeah.
And now if you listen to them, like they sound a lot more like pop. I don't know if you're familiar with their new stuff. They sound a lot more like pop than they do even, I'm not even talking metal, even
Okay.
even pop rock. They sound more like pop music.
Yeah.
Straight pop. And they're getting played on like Octane and stuff. Like they're still, it's weird. They're like,
super
it's
accepted, and
not
they're
pop,
like-
pop
they're
fans
this
aren't
anomaly.
listening to them. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
My Fall Out Boy was a
like more
popish kind of
pop
band.
punk.
Yeah,
Yes.
but we're talking. I would have to play something for
But it's
you.
no, but I'm saying, but I was exposed to them during the guitar years because they were another artist that Washburn had that we might kind of do something with.
Yeah.
which wasn't up my alley, but I was open-minded.
Yeah.
But what I heard from them in the 2000s as to what I just recently heard from them is completely freaking different.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, maybe they just got good instruction as to where the money was. I don't know.
Well, and this is something that I kind of had to come to grips with because when we first started my band, which I should probably shout or my guys
Absolutely.
will fucking
You haven't even
kill
said
me.
your band
What's
name
the name
yet.
of your band?
Thank you.
What's the name of your
Fred. Winter's Descent.
Well, I didn't hear that. What's it?
Winter's Descent.
I know, like an hour and a half in.
I was always told don't push yourself too hard, but I should probably push us a little bit harder.
His
But-
band members are like,
What
Jesus
the fuck,
Christ, the fuck-
bro?
oh.
Like, do we exist to you? Am I a joke to you? But when we first started the band, it was all about we got to find a new sound. We have to do something new and find a new sound. And after all this time, it's like there's a phrase that applies to music, in my opinion, that there's nothing new under the sun. You know what I mean? Like what I hear that really grabs me now is when people find different elements and bring them together in a way that I've never heard. The only thing that I did hear that was new that I'd never heard anything like it before was that fucking, they're like Mongolian metal or something. What are they
yeah.
called?
Mongolian
I-
metal.
The Who.
I-
Which, like,
they're
totally
called The
threw
Who,
me
but they're
off.
spelled differently.
Yeah,
It's
did you hear
popular
that?
right now.
We played with them in China.
Oh, no, come on.
Dude,
They're
they're
serious?
fucking
They're
awesome.
pretty fucking cool. I'm not gonna like. It's
Dude,
weird. The first time I heard it, I
how
was
did we miss this story?
I went to dinner with those guys,
Wow.
man,
Oh my
and they
God.
we were in China, and they were fucking amazing.
Yeah.
They did
Yeah.
that
They're-
song with Jacoby or what's it? I always say his name.
I don't
wrong.
know much
the guy
about
from
them.
Papa Roach.
I just
They
heard
did,
the
they
new
did a song
single,
with him,
and it blew
it's-
me away. It was crazy.
Oh my
it sounded
God.
like the guy's doing like tribal vocals over this,
No,
like
it's like the wolf something or
yeah,
whatever.
the Wolf Pack or some shit.
I don't remember.
I don't
It's
know. Wolf
so-
Totem.
Yeah, that's
Wolf
it. Wolf Totem. Yeah.
I think when it first came out, it was in what's their native tongue?
Mongolian.
Mongolian.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So
when the
good.
song first came out. It was only in Mongolian.
me
You
wanna
had
beat
no
a
idea what the
drum.
fuck they were saying. They
They're
finally
fucking
released it. And
awesome,
This
man.
is getting played on Octane,
Yeah,
like the
it's so
popular,
good.
like hard rock station on Sirius, and he does
so it's
like.
come to this Mongolian metal.
It's so good.
Give it a
though.
chance.
It's
Give it a
so
chance.
good.
It's so
We're
weird,
all
but
like-
it's so good. Because the guitars are really heavy, but they have all these weird. Like, what is he playing? Is that a
like
violin or a
it's like a
mandolin or some
whale.
shit?
Some kind of stringed instrument.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
But they're awesome, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Dead
It
serious.
is weird.
Yeah.
You should give it a listen.
Yeah. And I mean, I think maybe it's weird to us because of just where we live. You know what I
We're
mean?
not
Compared
used
to
to
what
it.
we're used to listening
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
what I mean. So that's
Yeah.
what I mean. Like, obviously, they're coming from a different culture. People from that culture are like, that's not new music. You're an idiot.
Yeah, like that's like ancient.
You're,
And
you're
they're
an
throwing-
uncultured swine.
They're throwing in instruments that we're not
Familiar with.
familiar
Exactly.
with. But again, they've got Indian
Yeah.
death metal bands,
Right.
you know.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
They've got Mongolian death metal
Sure.
bands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
and it's
so-
new, and people are giving it a chance. And I'll tell you what, at first when I heard the single, I was just like, I'm
What a-
confused by this. And then when you listen to it, you get into the groove. I was like, especially when they released the
Yeah.
English version, so I could really hear what he's talking about.
Uh-huh.
I like it. It's very different, but
It's
yeah.
cool. I
So
like it
I
too.
mean that's kind of like what I would say about like all the different fusions and stuff like that. What are you gonna do? Like, let's say you want to be a rock or a metal band, and you're like, we're gonna do something totally different. Good luck, man.
Yeah,
I
good
mean,
luck with that.
I'm not like a really like especially talented musician. I don't know like classical. I'm not classically trained. Like if you ask me for an A note, I might be able to get somewhere in the vicinity. So, I mean, I'm not like the meter stick for that, but there's
Right.
plenty of talented artists who are trying to do new stuff. And when you listen to it, I mean, Fred, like, does it really sound that new? Like,
Well, nothing sounds new to me.
there you go.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. And that's your life, and that's what you hear all the time.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because I'm on a stage all day
Right.
at a festival, and I'm hearing the evolution of bands. You know, I've heard these bands 1,000 times. Nothing's new.
Right.
It just all. But when you add the element of some kind of 3-string,
Right.
Yeah.
that'll perk your ears up.
There you go.
If you
Yeah.
if you hear like a dirigido or whatever they call
Yeah.
them, you know,
Didgeridoo.
and if they're throwing something,
10,000 didgeridoo.
but things like that, you know, would perk your ears up. If you go to Ireland and you've got like a metal band and they throw a Celtic
Yeah.
string, that's, you know, and that's like what's fresh, and that'll like gain my, you know, attention. But I'm not hearing. I've 20 years of sitting on the side of a stage every year hearing every new band. I mean, I did Ozfest when System of a Down was the opener. You know what I mean? And they've got the, you know, and you know, then they go off to headline, you know, at points behind Ozzy, you know. But I've seen like all these bands start from their infancy.
Yeah.
A lot of them and go all up. Trivium, System of a Down, all these bands that were like fresh and cutting, what's Parkway Drive.
Love them.
So you see these guys go on, but even with like Finger 11, you are with Shinedown, you get these Canadian bands like Finger 11, and you see these guys.
Right.
How they progress over the years, and Theory of a Dead Man, and they're not like super metal.
No, but they're on
they're
Octane
different.
now too, and
Yeah.
I will tell you, they have a
They are
really
different.
interesting range of stuff that they.
Yeah.
that
They're
they-
hit or miss with me, but they are different.
Yeah, me too. But like the songs of theirs, I really like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
and that's exactly.
Yeah.
There's certain songs that really
Yeah.
go out and grab you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's like that with everything. But you get to see these things, and nothing's new to me anymore.
Sure.
It's the same old stuff. Like Willie, he's all in the death metal, and he'll be like, man, blah, blah. And he's going off on these guys, and I'm like,
How does he talk?
I just. but
Shout out to Willie.
But yeah, shout out to Willie. But he's like, we go up to Finland, and you see, like we were talking about death metal,
yeah.
and now I've become like immune to that, and it's just like and I remember seeing bands, Dimmu Borga and all these, all those cats, and I saw them on Ozfest, and everybody's like, dude, blah, blah. I'm like, nah, old hat. It's like, dude, you got to check this band out. I saw them, like you said, the Mongolian
Right.
band. Yeah. When we toured,
It's just finally breaking here, but
Yeah.
if
finally
you've
breaking-
toured the
but over in Europe, and that's
Right.
what I was saying. There's over there, you don't have to be, they have these elements of melody and different instruments and stuff like that, and that's what kind of it's got its appeal. Again, 20 years standing on the side of a stage. Yeah, I've seen everybody come through, and it's
Right.
just it's great. But like you said, the Mongolian band's just breaking here,
Right.
And it's great that they're being, because they were such great guys. They were sweethearts, man. And we went to dinner, and I just remember that they ate all the things that we didn't eat.
Go to the Mongolian steakhouse.
No, we went to a Chinese. We went to one of the nicest Chinese places, and yeah, the food's still alive. It still moves.
Wow.
And they're just going to take a fish and they're going to throw it in the frying pan. Right, and the thing's flopping around, and then there you go. It's like its mouth is still moving. Oh yeah, it's the best part. Yeah,
Oh my God.
Not
and
for
so
me.
anything that we didn't eat, and it's on this great big glazy Susan. It's on this great big wheel, and you just turn it to the Mongolian guys, because these guys haven't eaten in days.
That's so weird. I was reading I forget what I was like reading an article or something, but it was talking about how like the way that we're conditioned culturally about food is just such an interesting thing, because like what we see here in America, and like even like different European settlers, when they would go to different countries and they would be like, why aren't these tribal people starving? Like, because they wouldn't see anything, but they were eating like crickets and moths and like all this stuff. But to them, that's like a
Grasshoppers.
normal part of their diet.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not interested in eating those things, but like I'm thankful that I've grown up in a culture where it's not really been necessary. But that was how they looked at it. It was like you wouldn't do it. It was like a last resort kind of thing. But like people that were accustomed to it, it's not gross to them at all. They don't even think twice about it.
You can go to China and get a bushel of crickets. You can get crickets right there.
Well, that's
dry
like they
roasted.
have, like they have them in certain like hotels and different like resorts.
Not even
and stuff.
chocolate covered, just
Dry-
fucking crickets.
You can get them chocolate covered, but they're serious.
fry 'em.
But yeah, they're dry roasted, and they just palm. It's like, nah,
And that's the interesting thing they were talking about, that it's like it's not our.
getting the legs stuck between your teeth.
But that's just it. It's not actually our palates. Yeah, I totally agree with you, but it's actually not our our taste buds that are what makes us like gag over. It's cultural. Like it's like what we. And I think when you
Right.
circle back to like
Right.
how we feel about music, is that like different cultures have just come to like accept music differently.
exactly. That's a very nice.
Segue.
That's pretty
I
good.
did like that.
That's pretty good.
I know.
Again, we're uncultured swine.
I mean, I'm
American
Pittsburgh.
pig.
I
Yeah, but-
love that I live in an American city that is like pretty much like the dirtiest.
No, because here's the thing: it's cool to hop on and be like, "Oh, Americans are so uncultured, and you guys just want to deep fry leather boot and eat it in a trailer park, and you don't know what culture is and all this other stuff." But here's the thing:
That is
the
a
rest
culture.
of the world's been emulating us for how many friggin' years, and it's like, okay, we may not have culture, but you guys sure consume a lot of ours. You know what I mean? And it's just weird though, because like we don't have like these deep roots that some of these other countries have
we're a
been.
melting pot.
You know what I mean? They've been rooted where they are for some of them thousands of years. So
American is not an ethnicity. You know,
Yeah.
right, but that's what I mean. Our culture, you know what I mean. We're only
We're
200 some
yeah.
years old. Yeah, that's
Right.
what I mean. So we don't have those deep roots. But then, I don't know. We're like this weird mutant freak kind of thing. You know what I mean? And the rest of the world, like, they might make fun of
They
us.
love us,
but,
they hate us.
Yeah, they might make fun of us, but they're like, do you see what they're doing over there? We're all gonna do this. You know what I mean? Because like it's I don't know. We're this.
Did you feel that when you
experiment.
traveled?
Oh yeah, I've gotten some great questions when I traveled. I remember being in England, and these little kids. There was these two little kids, and they said, "Oh, you have an amazing accent. Are you from America?" And I remember the kids' mom and dad are like, "Leave the man alone." I'm like, no, it's okay. It's like this little boy goes, "May I ask you a question?" I'm like, yeah. He goes, "Does everyone carry a gun? And can you shoot a man in the street like in the movies?" And I'm like, well, you know, and I'm trying to like, and they're like, "Please leave him alone. Leave the man alone." And so he goes on.
In Texas, you can.
And so it was like these kind of, that's like the view of what these people have. And I just remember because it was kind of funny because he goes, "Do you watch wrestling?" And I'm
Be like, actually.
well, that's what
It really
happened.
felt like a bug under a magnifying glass.
And they're like, "Please leave him alone." He goes, "Do you? Who's your favorite wrestler?" And I'm like, "Well, I kind of like them all." He goes, Do you know who Stone Cold Steve Austin is?" And I'm like, yeah, I know Stone Cold Steve Austin. He goes, "Oh, so you've seen him wrestle?" I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of
Know him.
I know him." And the kid is like thinking that everybody in America carries a gun and drinks beer like Stone Cold Steve Austin. You're like, and that's what he was getting to. He goes, "Do they really just drink beer straight line?" And it's just like, because he just grabs the can and I'm like, but that's how
Their view of us. Yeah.
that's their silly view of us, and I always laugh at that story. I always think about that because I was on a boat ride and I couldn't go anywhere. I was like in Calais or some shit because I was like treat myself to these like boat rides, just to get away. And so I was going on the sightseeing thing. And so I'm stuck next to this kid the entire ride.
And he's like enamored with you.
Oh, yeah, he's asking me all these questions. "Can you really just shoot a man in the street with a gun? Does everyone have a gun?" And
not
You should have just
legal.
had a ball with that
Oh
kid.
yeah.
I
You
kind
actually
of
have
did.
flamethrowers.
But I kind of did. I kind of, well, I can't just shoot a guy in the street. But
Unless he's looking at you funny.
And then only in the leg.
Just don't miss.
All right.
All the crowds you've seen, and you've been to, I won't say third world countries.
I've been to fourth world countries. I'm in the fifth world countries.
He said it. He went
I've
there.
eaten.
But all the audiences. Oh, you got to tell us what you're talking about.
Coffee.
Okay. There's no
amaretto in there.
There's no secrets here. The differences with the crowd, I'm sure there's visual differences, there's probably behavioral differences, but at the end, the unifying thing obviously is the music. Okay, there's the rah-rah moment. We got that. But of all the crazy crowds you've seen, really fucked up crowds and events and shit, what is the craziest country to play in?
Oh, man. Anywhere in South America. Because they're all fucking nuts. Dude, you get on there, and it's just like, because we're big down there. And you're playing with like Sabbath or Maiden. There's 100,000 people, and they're out the door and around the block, and police are there with tear gas, like shooting tear gas because they're crushing the barriers. Like when you see like the Guns N' Roses Rock in Rio stuff like that. Yeah, it's crazy. People are getting crushed and dying, and barricades are getting, and it's Black Sabbath,
Yeah.
and it's Megadeth, but I mean they're insane, and they jump at the same time, and they chant.
Yeah, the jumping.
And you
That's
can
unsettling.
feel it. You can feel it. I mean, you're.
And
I was
see,
like, yeah.
that is like the kind of thing that makes me believe that like we will get back to like that eventually, because there is something like I feel like that's so like primal
Like
about
communal,
yeah, that like
Yeah.
you can't stop people from wanting to do that. Like I just feel like you can't scare people out of wanting to do that.
Yeah,
You
and
know
that's what
I
we were
mean?
talking about. And I was kind of leading that way with it. Is that it can happen here again? It probably will happen. America's got a lot of other things to choose from. Again, but over there, down in South America, I mean, 80-year-old ladies know who Dave Mustaine is, and they're hanging out in the hotel going, "Hey, can I get an autograph and a picture?"
That's cool.
And it's awesome. And so, but that's down there on the music kind of thing. I imagine it still happens here. I remember when I was going to work with my dad one time, and we worked together right here in Shenango, right in the mill, right on the island. And I was listening to Metallica, and I put it in his tape player. He goes, "Dude, it's heavy like Sabbath." He goes, "It's just a little bit faster, man." He goes, "All it is fast Sabbath," and that was it, because he was like a Pink Floyd kind of guy, So, but he saw a relation between Sabbath, which was heavy, and Metallica when he first heard it. I'm sure that these kids that are younger than us, I don't know how old you guys are, but you're a lot younger than me, right. But I'm sure the kids younger than you are going to find stuff that you guys listen to and say, "Hey, look, I can relate to that a little bit."
It's already happening.
Yeah, so I think music will always be around, and going back to it's not disposable, but I think that we will have a resurgence like we see in South America, where these crazy countries are. Once this comes out, once this pandemic's over, people are going to be chomping at the bit to get out there and connect with somebody else. And music's the great connector. That's the common bind between. That's the common tie between everybody, and that'll do it. And I think that we're going to see a resurgence in
live music.
And
I'm hoping that it causes like a reappreciation for it, because I think people were kind of like getting to the point where it's like you have access to so much.
I ain't paying no $7 cover charge.
Yeah. Well, even just like regular concerts. Like I remember our friends Brittany and Blink. Remember they won all those concert tickets last year for the X. It was like some, they had like some kind of scavenger hunt, and
Right.
so our friends won like literally tickets to almost every concert last year, and like. It makes you realize how much we had access to, like how many tours. I mean, Pittsburgh's not even like what do they?
We're
call
not on
it?
the A list.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
like the
right.
top line or whatever. But we still get
Used
tons
to
of
be.
tours.
We used to be.
I mean, there's still like you can, if you want to go to a concert every
Most
weekend.
major tours still come through Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and
we
we
get about 40 of them a year,
that's what. Well, that's
or
what I mean.
at Star Lake, as the amphitheater.
Yeah,
Well, even
I mean that's what we consider Pittsburgh, but yeah, absolutely.
Well, between that AE,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and then what's it called, the arena, like,
PPG.
yeah, like between like all of those venues, like there's a lot of really good national tours coming through, and so you almost get like desensitized to it, like, oh, so and so's coming through here again, but I already saw them last year, and I don't know if I'm gonna go. But now I'm like, it's been like a full year since I was at like a bigger concert,
Yeah.
and it's been, I haven't promoted a show since March, so it's like, I don't know, like I want to go see all the bands now.
Yeah.
Like,
It doesn't make a difference.
But
You just wanna
technology-
go.
yeah, exactly.
seriously.
Would you
Yeah.
not agree that technology has certainly eroded the live act over a period of 2 decades or so? The quality of live concert films, the quality of the music, the instantaneous technology of bringing, audio visual content to your fingers, it had to some degree. Don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, it should promote it, right? The concept is you bring that content to someone's phone to give them a taste of
I
something
get what
to
you're saying,
promote it.
because you have access
I mean-
on your smart device. You don't necessarily want to go out, but some people still do want to. I think, in a way, I think you were kind of going towards like smartphones and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the technology that sort of changed the live performance in a way that me personally, I don't think is always that great is actually music technology, because now you got the singers. Well, I can hit that note in the studio. I can't hit it live, so I've got all these backing tracks and shit.
Point.
Like, here's the thing, and I'm not like one of these purists who's like, oh, they did a sample before their metal song. Fuck you, I'm leaving. That's a little extreme for me. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that reasonably you can't do live. Like, if you're gonna sample in, even you're not an industrial band, like you have so few synth parts, or there's so few and far between or whatever, that it doesn't make sense to have. You're not Nine Inch Nails, you don't need a guy on the sample board, I get it, but like when you're sampling it, like when your backing tracks are like supporting the singer in a way that they're just not a good enough singer in order to do live, you know what I mean? Or like a substantial portion. I don't know. We'll talk later, I guess.
I
gotta watch what I say.
Is that an off mic situation?
Or a substantial.
What's funny is I was thinking it, and I was just like, oh man.
They've got the mind meld thing like you and Jason.
A substantial portion of the live music is not being performed live.
Yeah, let's talk about
Yeah.
that. Let's fucking
I
talk
can
about
listen
that.
to your album at home, thank you, but I came
So
here
it's
to
not
see
just a
someone.
dinosaur rock artist doing that.
I mean, it's becoming commonplace. I'm not against backing tracks. Let me be clear. I think Sid said it best.
Yeah.
Sid Riggs was like, look, if you can play your set, like let's say, if you're talking about a local show, your laptop craps out or whatever, you're at a big, if you're at a certain, once you get to a certain tier show, like they're never going to be without their technical backup. But like, strip all that away and just have them play. You still got your guitar techs and you got the guy on the soundboard and stuff, but you're not going to play anything that was recorded in post. Do you still sound like you? Is it still a good set? Are you doing enough up there that people can listen to it and be like, you know what? That didn't sound like they always do. They didn't have the little bells and whistles and the frills, but it was still a great fucking show. Mm-hmm. That's when I'm like, you're still doing a live performance. If you cannot play without...
How about singing?
I'm a purist with that. I don't. No, man. Here's the thing. Okay, Fred, you were like you used to tour with Alice in Chains, right? If you listen to, say, like Man in the Box, he's not hitting that note live. He didn't even try to hit that note live. He just sang it differently. And when you heard them live, like if I want to cover Man in the Box, I got to hit that note, or people don't want to hear it because that's where you used to hearing it. But like when he gets up there, when Lane used to get up there and do it, you can do it the fuck you want. You're Lane Staley, you know what I mean?
Right.
He would just sing it a different way.
Right.
And now, people, like, you're selling people on this track. Mm-hmm. People need to hear that live. And
so you're saying, so if I'm hearing you correctly, they're doing the tracks because they think people are expecting to hear it.
people are. Here's the thing, though, because, like, you don't have...
So what changed then? Something changed.
I think it's what we talked about. You don't have these, like what do you call them, like, dynasty bands almost that are around for, like, 12 and 13 albums, you know what I mean?
That's a really good point, because that, I think, really...
This song is popular now.
Yeah,
I heard
I'm-
it for the first time 4 months ago. Now they're touring. Like, people tour on singles,
better
not
sound- it
records
better
now.
sound like the
That's
record.
what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know a lot of these bands well enough to accept.
Interesting.
What a second. Like, I've heard, and I hate to say it,
Interesting.
I'm a victim of this. I'm not going to say names, but I heard it was a recording from Carolina Rock Rebellion, and it was a band I know where the guy goes really high, and he was not, I think his voice was a little tore up, but I heard it, and I was like, that is trash, that is garbage, and he was doing it live, like he wasn't using the backing tracks, and I was just like,
Okay.
I didn't like it. You know
Okay,
what I mean?
so let me ask you this:
I'm guilty of it, too.
Is there an integrity issue that it's a really slippery slope to me? So if a band has a singer that's got a good range, but in this particular song they give him another 2 octaves based upon pitch transposing or whatever they do, obviously something on recording that he cannot do.
Yeah.
Most humans can't do it live.
Yeah.
And they make that recording, and it becomes a hit. Is it disingenuous that they created that art in a way that could not be duplicated live, and then they go out and they play that? I mean, is it just it stands alone as art, and they're going to do their best live, or is there an integrity issue?
I don't know. I guess
Honestly,
it depends on your own prerogative. I think it probably depends heavily on the genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Like, when you're going to hear pop music,
Yeah, exactly.
how do you do that live? Like, you know
It
what I
isn't
mean?
live anyways.
It's a bass
Yeah.
machine. Like, it
Yeah.
is what it is. I don't know how to
Yeah.
create. There's no instrument that creates that sound. So a lot
Right.
of what you're hearing was pre-recorded anyway. Rock and roll, man, if you're not a good live band, what the fuck am I supposed to do with you? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you might be amazing on your record, but when you go out and
That's the overall thing. Yeah, it sounds really amazing and created,
Yeah.
elaborately created for the
Yeah.
record, but it can't be duplicated. Zeppelin was always known as a very weak live act. Now, you'll hear these legendary stories about Bonham hitting so hard that people could feel it. I get it. And Page, he'll have his moments, but as a unit, even with as talented as like John Paul Jones was, you always heard they had thin guitar sounding. They weren't always in sync. There was a lot of rough shows, but Zeppelin really didn't bring the Zeppelin experience in a live act. If you were an album purist, if you were someone who really loved those recordings.
Well, that's kind of hard to duplicate because there's so many multi-tracked, especially with those later albums.
Exactly. And I think so. It all kind of started then. The multi-tracking was popularized by his era, Jimmy Page era, and the things that Les Paul actually did. But it to me, as a fan of music as a kid, when I would go to hear a band play live, it was okay that it sounded different, but it had to be full.
Well,
it had
still
to be
has
relatively
to be good
yes.
too.
Has to
And
be
that's
good.
one thing that like really bothers me is
Exactly
like
right.
if I hear, especially with vocals, like if I hear a singer and I can tell they're not using backing tracks, so I can hear how crappy it sounds. Like I'm like, well, what did you do in the studio that made me like you?
Right.
And like,
Why am I paying money to see you live when you can't make that sound?
and that's and like honestly, like maybe like you said for pop, it's like there's so much magic
production
happening
that goes
there.
into it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of
And-
production, and that's just the nature of the genre.
Right. And so and because I don't, and this is kind of comes back to some other stuff we were talking about, it's like, for having different palettes for different types of music, there's different arenas for different, like I love death metal live. I don't listen to death metal in my car. I don't
Yeah.
listen to death metal at home.
Same here.
You
It's
know what
very
I mean?
exciting live.
Yeah, like I love being at like a super
Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah, like any kind of like super heavy growling vocals, but I do not listen. Like I couldn't tell
Cookie
you
Monster vocals.
a bunch of
Yeah,
bands. You know what I
absolutely.
mean? Like it's just not what I'm into. So I think that there's like, for pop music, like I don't really care that much about seeing a pop show live. You know what I mean? Like
Is
I
it
think
really live anyways? Like, what is it?
that, but it doesn't mean I don't like the music. Like I grew up listening to like Madonna and Whitney Houston.
Female
and,
pop singers are like my guilty pleasure.
Oh yeah, Mariah Carey, like all that. Like I loved all that stuff when
Right.
I was growing up. Cyndi Lauper.
Here's an interesting fact, though. In that genre, all I think about Cyndi Lauper is Lou Albano.
I learned a Cyndi Lauper tune yesterday to play out live next week.
That's really exciting.
Are you serious?
I learned time
All
after
right,
time.
I was
podcast is
just
over.
thinking that song
Wait,
too
time
when I
after
said
time.
it. I was
Oh my
like,
God,
oh.
Fred. Oh my God.
And that's like,
That's
what I
awesome.
grew up like listening to like as a kid. You know what I mean? Like, and those were like some of the first songs that like I learned all the words to and I could sing along with. And so like, but I never like pined
Comma
for
Chameleon.
I didn't I didn't think about like seeing them live though. Like it wasn't like the type of
Yeah.
thing that I would sit in my
Right.
room like, oh, I can't wait to see them live in concert. But when I started getting into like Aerosmith
Right.
and then like bands,
Yeah.
it's like that's when like that kind of like that bug gets you and you're
Rock
like,
and metal, it's
I want to
just-
see them in
yeah.
person.
So, two crazy experiences in my life that kind of like go into this conversation that are worth mentioning. One was I got hoodwinked into taking a girlfriend in '84 to
Hoodwinked.
go.
I
yeah,
love
I
that
did.
word.
Yeah, to see
taking
Duran
that one.
Duran live at the
I
Pacific
saw
Arena.
him.
Now,
You said you just learned a song. My band covered a Duran Duran song.
That's
well,
awesome.
Ordinary
Yeah.
World's a great song by Duran Duran.
I saw him.
What did we do? Come Undone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah,
did like
same album.
We did like a
In
metal version of
93,
Come
same-
Undone.
same
That video.
album.
People loved
Oh
it,
my
dude.
God.
People loved it.
Oh, so
So
good.
the thing about what was remarkable to me about that was the concert was going to be Duran Duran and some other band that was going to open for me. Didn't know, and I was doing it pretty much because I got hoodwinked into doing it. I was aware of Duran Duran; it was catchy pop stuff, but I was still listening to Zeppelin and Aerosmith and Kiss and bands like that. Well, I was just in shock how good of an actual band, at least I assumed it was live music, but how powerful the Andy Taylor on guitar was amazing. Is it Andy Taylor on guitar? It was here a pop band that I was so used to this homogenized, ear candy stuff, and then boom, they come out live and they just like we're playing as hard as Kiss was or as hard as Rat was.
Yeah.
The other one worth mentioning is where there was a lot of processing on his records, especially his early ones, he would bring an entire band out and duplicate that, but from a live setting, and that was Prince.
I knew you were going to
He
say Prince.
never,
I knew you were going to say
never took the shortcut route live.
Yeah,
Not
well, and that's a
one
good
time,
point because there
ever.
are some like artists that like are like pop artists. And I'm not to say that like any electronic music isn't exciting live. Like we saw Stabbing Westward a couple years ago, and like they do a lot of like synth stuff and
It
everything.
was their reunion show. We
And-
saw them in New
oh
York.
my
It was
God.
phenomenal because we both grew up. That was one of the singers that like made me want to be a singer.
Yeah.
Listening to Stabbing Westward when I was like 15 years old.
Such
you
a
know,
good show.
And then getting to see them was
Yeah.
But I mean, you get the like they have a lot of synth elements, and you can tell they're using backing tracks. I think what it really comes down to for me, because I didn't know how to answer your question, are you making a good thing better, or are you making something trash sound palatable? You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like, is it the
Yes.
chocolate sauce on the French vanilla ice cream, or are you just polishing a turd?
Yeah, I think, well, and that's kind of like when it comes down to it, like when I have seen bands that, like, especially the singer, or just they weren't tight or something, you know what I mean? And like, and every band has an off night, you know what I mean? I'm not going to like totally discount a band if they don't have a great
Right,
show.
right.
But when I can tell that it's just not what I'm used to hearing on the radio and it's just not there.
If you go to enough live shows, you can tell when you're just like,
Yeah.
this band is just not,
Not
that.
that
I
good.
don't know how to
Yeah.
say it. Like, sometimes you can critique, like, oh, they need to be a little tighter or this. And you're looking at a band, and you're like, they're just not a very good band.
Yeah, and it like it's honestly like it's happened to me enough times that like I've been like really disappointed and been like, wow, like I really liked them.
Either
and
that or someone's drunk
and-
up there.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
well, and that has I've seen that too, and like that I've had experiences like that made me be like, well, I spent a lot of money on this fucking ticket, and you can't even
There
stay
you go.
Yeah.
sober enough to put on a decent show. You know what I mean? And like
There you go.
Well, and here's another thing.
You've seen enough Ozfest.
exactly, no,
And-
exactly.
And Fred, I don't know if you've had experience with this, but the one thing my producer has been saying to me is like, you don't want to shoot too high on your record. 'Cause like I said, this is our first like legit, like we're trying to make an industry quality recording, and it's going well. Like we're recording in Sid Riggs' studio. We're working with Sid Riggs and Lee Caruso. He went to Berkeley. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got a lot. He's a younger guy, but man, he knows a lot.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
He can hang. So he's like, you want to shoot for as high as you can reasonably perform right now. And then he said, what you got to do is you got to be able to play as good as your record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And perfect your live show. And I feel like bands probably used to have to do that a lot more because when you get
Probably.
to, like the other thing he tells me is when you get to your second record, now you got to outdo the first one. The third record, you got to make it better. And sometimes that might lead you to the
The
place like,
sophomore slump.
like you were saying, where
yeah.
the ego gets involved and they get all in their heads about who I am as an artist, and they get away from just
Esoteric.
doing it out there. But there's something to be said for like, okay, we got to keep setting the bar higher, and then you got to have a band like, who am I thinking of? It's a band that I never really used to listen to. How could I forget it? It's like the iconic Bryson Skinner. Dude, Lee played some old footage for me of old Leonard Skinner. I had no idea what a phenomenal live band they
Oh,
were.
absolutely.
Dude, how did they fit? Like, you need a bigger stage just to fit that many people.
Yeah,
And he's like, dude,
live,
they
they're
would.
amazing.
He's like, they would wing it. They would do like whole sections that
Improvisation.
weren't. Yes, that's what I mean. Like, you just don't. I don't know. Like and I think it's not even about the art because everyone's talking about like the art and all this shit. I think what it really comes down to is like. It used to be a lot more about your craft. Like
Those
to
boys
be-
could play.
To be a musician, a professional
play.
musician,
Yeah.
you had to be able to fucking hang.
You either
Like you
play or
had
you
to,
don't.
you had to
Yeah.
really perfect your craft. And people have dedicated their lives to one instrument. And I'm not saying people don't nowadays, but that's not what sells anymore. That's not how the industry is really.
Right.
That's not how the industry is geared nowadays.
Right. That's,
That's
a good point.
Yeah.
How many acts did you see and hear on Ozfest over the years where you were disappointed?
I saw that. Thing.
I know.
Different
And
from
I
night
saw
to
the
night, or was
disappointment
it
on
just
your
bad
face.
tours, bad bands?
Bad tours, bad bands, what they thought music was. You know what I mean? And it's just like, really? We were talking earlier, and I listen to what everybody says, and in my head, my mind goes to this particular year, this particular band, or what this guy said. There's bands out there that are super huge, and when they went into, my buddy got a job, and I'm not going to mention any names, but it's a really, really popular metal band. And he went in there, and he's a purist. You know what I mean? What goes into the mixing board is going to, and he went in with this band, and they had he was, all right, let me see what you got. And he's hearing all this stuff, and he's like, what the hell's... And he's like looking, they're showing him, well, here's all the tracks. And he said, okay, cool. And he calls the band together, and they really wanted this guy to be front of house guy. He's a producer, stuff like that. He's front of house. And he goes, all right, you guys want me to work? Yeah, we do. He goes, good. This half the board is gone. All these tracks are gone. You're playing it live. And he made the band play.
Could they do it?
Everything like
He made him do it.
Made him do it. Made him do it. You're not taking the easy way out. You're going to learn how to sing.
There you go.
Man,
Fucking A.
That is so,
I love hearing that.
To a fan of music, that is so disingenuous to me. I hate lip syncing more than anyone you ever want to meet.
So much lip syncing.
I hate it with a passion.
It wasn't so much lip syncing. It was all the backing tracks.
Yeah.
If it's something that's on the record that you can't create with a guitar, if it's a synth or if it's, I get it.
That's what I said. Like if you're putting in a sample, like sometimes you'll take things from movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It enhances what you're already hearing. But there are bands, and man, it's becoming more and more common. Like a substantial portion of what you're hearing is not created live, and they're not capable of performing it live. And it's not because you're listening to an industrial band.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is like you were talking about Skinner. I saw Skinner, a while ago. I've seen him every year since. But you had the Skinners, you had the Allmans, who had 2 drummers and percussion players.
Doobie Brothers.
Just amazing
all
musicianship.
Those guys. Pink Floyd, even when Roger Waters comes around now,
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all played live. I mean, there's probably some, like the little tracks from the album or whatever in there, but you've got 4 guitar players on stage playing, each one has their own little track to play, and 2 keyboards. Even Guns N' Roses did that. Axl's not the greatest singer ever, but you had Dizzy, you had Teddy playing keyboards, you had percussion players, you had the backup singers, you had,
Plus, Axl had a very unique voice.
And that fills out the whole sound. And I admire a band like when the Stones will bring
Bernard Fowler.
Oh my gosh! I
toured with him last year.
Unbelievable! I love that guy.
Love that guy. God!
But they fill out the sound with other musicians. It's not piped in on a tape.
Yeah,
right? It's musicians.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a fucking ensemble, man. These guys have played with each other for years. They can read each other on stage.
And you're
that's what I mean. Like
that
we talked about
then.
the instant gratification. That shit doesn't come overnight. You can't take a band who had a hit single like, oh, you got really popular on SoundCloud, and okay, we fucking threw a single out there and everybody loves you, and you're gonna tour 3 or 4 months from now. They're not gonna become a great band in 3 or 4 months.
There's no bands right now that I think
period.
There's no band that can stand the test of time. You don't have legends right now such as Pink Floyd, Sabbath. I'd like to know what the next ones are. I mean, I'm open to hearing them.
I think that some of the legacy bands, I don't want to say legacy bands, but some of the bands that were popular like in, we'll say like the late 90s, early 2000s, that were like just coming up then, if they are still touring. And I'm thinking of bands like Alice in Chains, even though they have a different singer now, and Stone Temple Pilots, who has a different singer now. I don't know if Stone Temple Pilots is really going to have that kind of staying power without Scott Weiland.
STP was unbelievable.
Ugh, I forgot. Like, they were at Rock on the Range, sidebar, and and their new singer, honestly, is so good.
Well, what's so rare about that band is that the one thing I will always go to my grave believing this is they actually put out a second record that was better than their first record, and their first record was a massive.
Are you talking about Purple
hit
compared to Core?
Yeah. Their second record sold more and was better polished, and the songwriting was better. That's universally, people feel that way.
Well, and what you don't realize
prove it.
is that when we were listening to their set, I was just like every song they played was a hit in the 90s. You know what I mean? And then
forget about
even
that band.
thinking about Breaking Benjamin and Tool, those are bands that have been popular for a pretty long time. But it just looks different. You know what I mean? And
but who's coming up right now? I think that's maybe what you were saying. Yeah, because you do have Tool's been around for a while. Breaking Benjamin took a hiatus with the court case that was going on. But you do have bands that have been around for a while. But where are the bands that are coming up? Like the one that you were listening. She listens to a lot of podcasts. She keeps me plugged in because I'm working all the time. And they were talking about how there are no more stadium bands coming up. And the only one they said that's coming up right now that's really popular, one of the newer bands, is Ghost.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to ask you about
Yeah.
Ghost. Well, Green Day can still play stadiums.
Yeah,
right?
but they've been around for a while. We're talking about bands that are
They're
kind of
just
their
on-
star is rising. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like they
Right.
didn't peak 10 years ago. You know what I
Right,
mean?
and I think like honestly,
Ghost.
like yeah, Ghost is like a phenomenon.
You either love Ghost or hate Ghost.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like that they're branded like they should be a fucking death metal band. Then you listen to them.
It's
I don't
like
care. I
seven-
like it, man.
It's operatic singing.
I like
in
it.
there, right?
It's
that
almost like
song,
pop
Dance
metal.
Macabre or whatever. That
Yeah,
like
the new
it
one, I
sounds
like it.
like a 70s like
does.
disco.
It almost
They're
does.
pop
Yeah.
song.
And
But I
I like
like
'em.
it. I do too.
I like 'em.
totally do too. And they're a phenomenon because it's like they were literally like you.
Papa de Meritus.
1 minute you didn't really know them, and then all of a sudden it was like everybody knew who they were.
For the life of me, I can't remember what the side project's called, but they have a side project that sings. It's to me, it sounds like Pink Floyd,
Oh wow!
and it's
Interesting.
and it's those guys. Well, it was the original Ghost
Yeah, before he fired everyone.
before he without the, but it's like Pink Floyd, like death metal, satanic lyrics. Pink Floyd,
It's a Pink Floyd
but
music.
but it was for the life of me, Tony. Tony, my buddy Tony would know what it was because we listened to it all the time. He goes, "It's the guys in Ghost."
Huh.
Without there's so it was a side project. I'll look it up or I'll text them when we're.
What's what Corey Taylor did with Stone Sour, right?
Yeah.
Well, and so Stone Sour's like on
Yeah, it's
permanent
done.
hiatus
Corey
now,
Taylor's now
apparently.
putting out like self, like just called.
And
Corey
then
Taylor.
Slipknot will tour whenever tours can happen again. And
That's another thing. Slipknot's a huge band, but
I
they've
was
been
gonna
going
say-
for 15, almost 20 years
Yeah.
strong
Yeah.
now.
yeah, and Godsmack is kind of having a resurgence now, and like it's funny because they're a band that I did not like in high school at all, and now like that they
There's
have
a
new,
big debate about that. You got like the old school Godsmack fans, and they hate the new stuff. I never liked Godsmack, so
Now
I'm
I like them.
I love
Yeah.
that they sound different.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like
Sully.
when they put out Bulletproof, I was
I
like,
think
wow,
Sully,
like
right?
yeah,
Sully.
that's the
Yeah,
singer.
yeah.
And like I was like, damn, like he has a good voice, and this is a good.
They got
song.
a new producer on their last album,
and
from
it
what I
still
understand.
sounds like them, but it's for whatever reason, like it hit my palate better.
Absolutely.
And
There you
you know what I mean? Like so, bands like that, I think have staying power, and that I think they could be arena bands. But who's
Yeah,
gonna,
but Godsmack's been around for a while too. That's what I mean. I
I
think
know.
that's what Fred was
I know,
saying
and you
is
keep coming back to
who
that, but
is
yeah.
coming up right now because like we're
I don't know.
talking about like what this climate is gonna spit out and create.
well,
you know what
interestingly,
I mean?
so I'm really into Bad Wolves, and I'm like
Bad
a
Wolves
huge,
is- I
I'm
do
a
like
huge
Bad Wolves.
fangirl of Bad Wolves. I will totally cop to that. But because they're being managed by Five Finger Death Punch guy Zoltan.
Oh yeah, they're
so,
guitarist or
Yeah.
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 So I think that he's given them a lot of like insight and trajectory as far as like industry goes. So I think that like the way that they're being managed could potentially put them on that path.
Right.
But only time will tell. You know what I mean? And that's gonna have. And who knows? I mean,
That's the issue now, though, is like, and we've talked to, touring bands and we've made some friends, me and promoters. We talked to, it's not like we know all kind of players in the industry, but we get to talk to some people who are in the industry and have a little bit of knowledge. And the band's coming up, they're like, you have to write single after single after single. And if you think about it, it's not even, I've noticed, because, man, I really pay attention to songwriting. I really analyze the bands that I love, and I'm like, why don't I sound like them? Why am I not that good? You know what I mean? And it's been made clear to me, like there have been plenty of, Phil Collins, he couldn't read sheet music. It's not
Right,
necessarily
right.
just because I asked my friend Lee, I was like, do I need to go back and learn theory? And he said, for God's sake, no. He was like,
don't waste your bandwidth.
good God, there's so many things you need to be doing for your project right now. He said, don't do that. He said, you just don't need it. You will learn. You will pick things up. You will learn how to do what you do. He's like, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of things that you could learn about theory, and obviously they will help you. But going back and cramming all that knowledge into your head, meanwhile, a lot of it you're not going to use. That's not what you need to be doing for your band right now. But I listen to other bands and I try and analyze songwriting. And what I've noticed is, like, think about it. Back in the day, it was like a song had a hook. Maybe two hooks, you know what I mean? A good song. If you listen, like I listen to bands that are on Octane, you know what I mean?
Right.
Newer, like hard rock,
Right,
verging
right.
on heavy metal, not like your super heavy screamer bands,
Right.
where it's more melodic and musical. dude, it's hook after hook
yeah.
after hook, and it's really good. Like, I like it, but I'm just like, how exhausting. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just come up with a good hook, maybe two, and build a song around it. Now, like, what sells, like that catchy thing, it has to be pretty much all throughout the song. Like you said, that instant
And
gratification
you've only
you're
got
talking
3.5
about, Eric.
minutes.
And you have to keep somebody's attention.
Not just, okay, we need single after single after single. It's not about albums anymore. You have to write basically hook after hook. Like, every part of the song has to hook, especially younger people. And it's just like, it's exhausting. And on top of it, like,
It's been going on for so long, though, my friend.
industry people are making money and the artists aren't making as much
Right.
money. And I don't think it's, Fred, you've been in the industry for a while. I don't see this as being a sustainable business model, what's happening right now.
Oh, no.
I think it's ripe for a change because the talent's not happy.
That was kind of what my thing was, is when these people burn out, there's somebody else that's going to be right there, the next flavor of the day.
We said about music, you love it so much, that's the problem. Everyone wants that chance, and they love performing music, so you pay me peanuts, okay, I'll still do it because I love it so much.
And you know what? It's like that in the guitar tech world, too.
Yeah.
You get the dinosaurs like me that make some money, but you've got these kids that come in and go, well, you know what? I'll do it for $500. Just take me on, buy me a sandwich and I'll go on tour with it. It's just like, wait a second. And that's
Just for the experience because they love it.
and that's
Yeah.
exactly it. And that's where a lot of things, and that's what's happening with bands now. You know what? Once they burn out, and somebody else is making the money off of them, well, you know what? We got the next one coming up, and we'll use those guys. And
Well, and that's where, like, I do feel like when you talk about, like, the instant gratification and, like, what it takes to be, like, a good, like, staying act is I'm not going to say that bands that are coming up now aren't talented, but, like, I will say that, like, there is kind of, like, a bulk of, like, bands that are, kind of like that mid-level national that are getting some of the bigger tours, that are getting songs played on Octane, but they're just, like, and I've seen them on, tours when they come through, and they're just not as good. Like, maybe they will be, maybe they're just not good yet. You know what I mean? But I don't know if people value that talent and dedication, and you know what I mean? Like how Sid would talk about John 5. He would just sit there and play.
He would drive
and
himself crazy trying to get better.
You know what I mean?
this is what's messed up. Is I was just thinking about John when you said that, and that's where my mind was going.
The melt's happening
I
across
know,
the table
I
now.
know, it's good, it's good. But no, I don't know.
John for a long time.
I don't know that, like, people, I'm not saying that people don't get obsessed, but I think that comes back to, like, that whole attention span thing. It's like, do we have a generation of people coming up that have the longevity in, wanting to pursue something long enough to be good enough at it?
Oh, you're saying the actual artists themselves.
Yeah. Not that they're...
They're a product of times.
Because
John was a chameleon, and he's still out playing what he did. He can play any style of music. He can adapt to anything, and that's just and he has a long. He did like the Indigo Girls, and then he did the album with Halford, and and now he's with he was with Manson, and he was with Rob Zombie, but his solo stuff is all over the place,
Right.
And again, putting out.
Almost like a Mike Patton sort of.
Yeah, right.
It absolutely is.
And, and he reinvents himself, but he still keeps it the same. You know what I mean? And his, but he's still relevant, and that's the hard thing,
Yeah.
And again, putting out. And he's doing stuff without lyrics, you know what I mean? So he's making musical or instrumental albums.
And try connecting on a commercial way with just instruments.
And so he's out there, just hammering away at it. And, but to keep relevant, I mean, he's a god, you know what I mean? He's one of my favorite
Because he's respected. He is respected as a musician.
Yeah.
Really respected.
Well, and that's kind of, this occurred to me to ask you earlier, Fred. Do you think, I mean, we're talking about how bands don't have the longevity, and we want to point the finger at the industry and being like, oh, well, it's the industry, or oh, it's the fucking kids and their attention span. Like, I mean, what do you think? Like, why are these dynasty bands, like, why is a band like Leonard Skinner, who could do the things they could do on stage, why is that not valued anymore? Why is that not happening? And maybe to a lesser extent, maybe that's just jam bands aren't popular anymore, dude. Get over it.
They
You know
are,
what I mean?
but just in their own little subculture.
Yeah, but
Right,
so
right,
that's a
right.
particular style and a specific example, but that level of musicianship, like, is it just that people don't want that anymore? Like, are the
not
artists
valued.
changing? That's what I mean.
not
But why?
valued.
Like, is the industry not investing in them as much? Is it because people they want that fast, easy, instant
I don't think the
gratification
industry's looking
thing?
for guitar players. I don't think the industry's looking for bass players. I don't think the industry's looking
Well,
for drummers.
here-
they're looking for people who look good and
That's
might
exactly-
have some kind of voice, and they'll build the music around
and
them.
you can make
Right.
you can make them sound great in the studio and throw them out with their tracks live and blah blah blah, just so they look good. Now, here's what I always said, and now people are going to hate me for saying this: is you had these people, and me being one, who sat down in a room and I learned how to play. Now you had these kids, and I don't know how old you guys are, but you guys seem like you work hard. You went through that whole slacker thing where nobody wanted to learn anything. Nobody wanted to learn how to play. Nobody wanted to take it down. It was tune it down, play with one finger, and there you
that
go.
defines all the 90s.
Well, that's the 90s music. Exactly what I was getting to.
Except Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah, there you go. But the thing
Well, Pearl Jam had some pretty.
is, you had,
maybe.
I'd say there's some intellectual things happening
But for,
there.
the,
Yeah, there's
for,
some
for the most
musicianship
part,
there.
it was I'm going to go up there and I'm going to play minimum chords with minimum, a sense of what I'm doing.
Right.
And there were still people out there shredding.
Right.
I mean, and
The
as we
audience
talked,
wasn't there, though.
As we talked, yeah, exactly. And as we talked, there's people in the bus station playing, shred, But
Right.
now you have these cats on the internet, these little kids that can play. So I see a resurgence in people playing, and I see a resurgence in women playing music. You got the Orthonis and the Nina
Right.
Strasses
Right.
out there playing. And you've got these women out there that are shredding guys playing.
Right.
So there
All
is.
we have is Lita Ford.
Yeah, all we
Who
had
was awesome.
Lita
but
Ford
that's
back in
all
the
we had back then.
and Joan Jett.
And Joan Jett. Well, to a lesser degree.
But the thing is kids can play now, and I think that with help of the internet, you're going to start to see, as it's happening in the business, people putting out their own music and being relevant through playing. You know what I mean? But you're starting to get the instrumental
I
cats.
think Cream still rises to the top, though, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
like if something is really, really, really good and
It's
it's put out there, there's a good chance it's gonna reach enough eardrums. It's
And
gonna
that's-
make it.
That's what it is.
It's
Well,
a
and
big
then
ass cup
what
nowadays.
does it
though.
look
But it's
like
big.
now,
with the
though?
internet,
It
you
is.
know
That's
what
what
I
I was
mean?
gonna say though. Is like,
It
what's
is.
it look like now in the sense that like you have like these like YouTube stars and all this other stuff,
Yeah.
and not only that, like I've heard it said a lot. That
Yeah,
people,
and then you had Bieber, but then they locked on YouTube, and it's
Yeah.
like the industry got a hold of that. You know what I mean? Every Wild
Yeah.
West frontier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and then so to your point when we were talking about like there's a lot more kids picking up guitars for a while. I think that there was a downtrend in that, and not just that, but because of electronic music and like different programs where you're just building beats and all that kind of stuff. That became in. And I think a lot of that comes to people maybe not being as socialized either. So if you have a band, which requires like
Absolutely.
3 to 5 people to all get in a room together, or
Right.
at least like exchange ideas over the internet, however you're doing it. And then you've got like all these people that are kind of being raised on social media that maybe aren't interacting in the same way. Are they going to be as likely to
Plus, a
form?
band's like a family.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like I've definitely got a whole nother.
That's a good point, though. That's a really good point. So, it's if social media is actually keeping us away physically from everybody, friends, family alike. Music is that outlier. These same kids, I'm hoping, still want to go to a live show and get in a room and get in a field with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
In real life.
Yeah, I mean, I
You
hope
know?
so too. Honestly, that's something that I really think when you talk about the pandemic and all this stuff of like, it concerns me that kids are not going to be socialized because they're already not as well socialized anyway because we have
Absolutely
other
right.
options now.
Right.
And now you take away even school and all this other stuff is like you've given them this like these kids that were like kind of like right on the cusp of maybe would have been kind of shy, maybe not super outgoing, and like now they like don't have to interact with people
Right.
at all. And so that makes me wonder like how those kind of implications affect the band unit coming back to music. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
No, but bringing it back to music, there was a band. This has happened. I can't even count how many times someone was talking. Someone thought of a band. We played years ago when Ultra Bar was still open with a band called the Proto Men, and
I
they're
remember hearing.
Oh yeah.
they had a cult following. They were described as Nintendo rock. We were like, because you're
Yeah.
trying to shop like, do we want to play with this band? I don't know, and we're like, what the fuck is Nintendo rock? And now we had a friend Eric who moved.
Viking guitar.
Viking guitar. Where there's like conventions, where there's gaming conventions, and what him and his project, what they do is they'll take like the theme song from like Mega Man or some
Right.
shit and take it and turn it into a shredding fucking and
Crazy,
I mean, they're
crazy
really fucking good. But this was like a couple years ago, and I'd never heard of video game Nintendo metal or whatever.
Right.
I was just totally like, I have no idea what the fuck.
We're old, Fred.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the hell you're even talking about. But we went to we played with them, and then afterwards, the Proto Men were good, and I mean really good. Plus, they got into the theatrics of it. I mean,
Costumes and
the
stuff,
costumes,
yeah.
they look like they're from video games. The chick, she was like a product. She could sing. She could knock you over with her voice. And they had
Right.
like a dude who wasn't even in the band who had the weird mechanical helmet thing. But all that to say, their fans were not typical music fans, but they had this cult following. They became popular on the internet, and all these gamers and people who are usually more like,
Sit in a
like
room by themselves playing.
tech heads, and they're
Yeah,
into computers and games,
yeah.
and like, my friend way over in, I don't know, Minnesota, who I never actually see, we play games together. Like, they showed up and they loved this band. I have
That's a good
rarely seen.
concept.
Yeah.
I have rarely seen. I don't know if you noticed, Fred, but like in Pittsburgh, sometimes people just fucking stand there and look at the band. I've never understood that. We go to Rolling Rock Town Fair to see. This
Oh
is way
my
back when
God.
Stained was legit one of the biggest
bands
fucking
at the
bands.
time.
We're rocking out, going crazy. Like, we're basically front row because you can walk right up. We look around, people are giving us funny looks because we're moving to the music. I'm looking around like, what'd you pay
That's-
the fucking fee to
Yeah.
get in here
I know,
for?
why
You could have
didn't you
That's a
listened
more
to the
recent
CD in your car.
phenomenon, though.
But
That's a more
they're
recent
fans.
phenomenon. I don't know why that
But
is.
Pittsburgh has been going on for at least 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
10, 15
Yeah.
years.
It's
It's
been
going
15
longer than
years.
that
That's-
because
yeah.
back when I played, it was the same thing.
I swear, dude. I swear there's artists who hate coming here for that fact alone.
Yeah.
Dude,
Like,
I've
we
heard
just
national bands
stonewall
literally,
people
and
like-
the singer's doing it low key, but he's definitely making fun of us for being a shit crowd.
No doubt about
But
it.
dude, these gamer fans, they fucking love them.
Oh
They
my
went
God, they were
fucking bananas. And I was like,
singing and
these are
jumping
not
and
social
dancing.
people. You
It's
can
for them.
tell these are not typically social people. And so, like you were saying, Eric, like, is it the great unifier? Is it going to overcome those obstacles? In that instance, I saw that it
broke
did.
through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because you think of
Yeah.
a gamer, man. Like
Yeah.
Single focus.
Yep.
Yeah.
Analytical thought.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. Don't touch me.
Well, and that's what, like I said, like I do try to be optimistic, but I do feel like sometimes like that's the kind of stuff that like worries me, that like there are already people that are like so much like that anyway, and then you add something like what we've gone through
Right.
recently, and then it's just like, are these people going to make it out of this okay? Because this is like the way we're living right now is not how we're meant to live. You know what I mean? Like
No.
as human beings,
But
like
we are fucking spoiled.
Yeah.
That we said we're really, we have so much convenience, and now we've got a lot more convenience electronically thrown at us to supplement our inconvenience of being quarantined.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So hopefully when we come out of this, we have not become addicted to the latest round of technology to cope with our quarantine, or we're going to keep using that stuff when we're allowed to actually go and talk to our neighbor on the front porch.
That's an
Right.
interesting question.
Well, and it's interesting, in like even like a sidebar, like kind of like example.
Will some people be able to get over the fear?
Yeah. Because
Or jump the fence to their neighbor's porch.
well, you
Yeah.
talk about convenience. Is like I've been doing my bar classes at home, and they are having classes in person, but you have to wear a mask, and I have to wear a mask during the day anyway, and I don't want to wear a mask any more than I have to. So I've been doing all my classes at home, and like there is a convenience element to it because I can do whatever I want. I don't have to be at the studio. But I'll tell you what, like I miss being there,
Yeah.
and I miss the girls I practice with, and like I said, I just like I can't deal with the mask anymore than I
Yeah,
have to
I
wear
get
it.
it. I get it.
All day
during-
long, sitting at her desk by herself, like not
Facing-
even interacting with
Insanity.
people.
It's gotten so nuts. Anyway, but
Don't go there.
I told you not to go there.
She hasn't given you the look yet, but that's probably coming next.
Oh
go
my
there.
god.
We don't have time for that.
No, seriously. But like it's weird though because I can feel it in myself as like it's like wow, this is really nice to just be able to like do this whenever I want. But yeah, it does not replace being in person. And like when you bring it back to music, like I love that people are like we talked about last time, like with like the from the living room concerts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
there's value in doing
It
it,
gets
for
old
sure.
after a while. I'm kind of like done with them now.
But
I've
yeah,
seen
that-
enough of them. It's a great effort. I appreciate it, but I'm kind of like, I want the real thing.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I feel like, it's worth noting that you're not going to be able to replace that experience of like being in that crowd with that many people and like, I don't know, like I
That'll
remember.
happen again.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Well, one thing that kind of occurred to me while you were talking is like, you have always had every city, every different region, you've always got national bands that come through. They're national, they're industry bands that everybody knows. They're played on the radio or maybe satellite, you know what I mean?
Right.
They have the big money behind them. What I've noticed is that the local, like, my band stopped playing, opening up for nationals, mainly because, and I know there's an opportunity to capitalize and sell merch and get to a broader audience, but what I noticed, we promote shows, I was like, the people who go to national shows typically aren't, it's funny, some of them are, you'd expect it to be the same people who'd show up to see a local band, but they're not. They're really
They're
not.
absolutely not.
And so for me,
Two different audiences.
That's what I mean. And what she and I have spent a lot of time, because Pittsburgh's a tough nut to crack, you know what I mean? We had a strong music scene in like the 70s, with the blues scene, and there was a rough go of it. So we've put a lot, we've got notebooks full of shit, and we were like, how do we bring people back out? How do we get people invested? There's so many really, and I'm not being a cheerleader, there are some really talented musicians here, local musicians, and they're in fucking projects that if they would get some national attention, you'd never be able to spot the difference between them and a signed band, and I'm dead serious. So what the fuck? How do we get people to come out and pay attention? And the big thing that I kept circling back to is, man, it's maybe 20-30% about the music, and the rest of it, it's a community thing,
What do you mean?
Community. You want to see like a happening,
see your friends,
a happening scene. Okay, I'm going to a show.
Okay.
Am I going to see the people I usually see at shows? Am I going to see a buddy of mine at a show? Are people going to be hanging out, having a good time, or is it going to be everybody who's here to see this band goes to the front of the stage, they sit there, they film with their phones, right? They talk to the band for they sit there, talk to the band for 5-10 minutes. Everybody but 3 people leave. Okay, now here's the crowd for the next band. If you've been to local shows, the shows that we throw, we've been complimented again and again. People hang, man. These people want to see all the bands.
Now, how do you craft that? Like, what do you do?
You don't. It's organic, or it doesn't happen. We put ourselves into this. Like, we've had bands from other cities we brought in sleepover at our house. We're friends with a lot of the people in the local music scene. Like, we've got good bands and they've got good crowds, and like, we don't create the kind of environment where it's like everybody kind of sticks to themselves. Like, it's really we're not going to take the credit here because it's an organic thing. It either happens or it doesn't. You know what I mean? And we just,
you need like a few people that are willing to put the time in to organize it. But like, it's like, there's a lot of people that genuinely care about seeing Pittsburgh thrive and succeed. And like, I don't want to start trying to name a bunch of names because I'll forget somebody and I'll feel like a jerk.
No, we're not doing that. Oh God, no.
But what I noticed is like, anytime any one person gets attention that is really for the scene, they always point back to like, oh, I'm not doing anything. Like, it's not, and that I feel the same way. It's like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I put time into hanging up flyers, and I put time into getting tickets to people on time, and I put time into promotion and social media and all that stuff. But ultimately, like, I just want people to feel like they're part of something, because that's what means something to me.
I get it.
You know what I mean? Because that's what made me want to do this is like, the first time we had a successful show was like December of 2016, and like we like had 5 bands, and it was, I talked about it on, and it's just like, and it was like, I looked around and I was like, I know so many of these people, and I really like their bands, and I'm really excited about it, and like I want to see every single band that's here, and so do all my friends, because like they're all invested in it too. And like, it didn't feel like any one person was like the only person in the spotlight, or it was about any one person. It's just like, we're all here wanting to just like be together and like share and sharing this like kind of common interest. And like, that I think is what you talk about community building. Like, that's like people want, like it's like a tribe. It's like when you feel like you're like, oh, like we're in this together because like we have
commonality.
And I mean, whether it's like stylistic, I mean, like we go to a lot of
doesn't
different,
need defined.
like we go to, you talk about like the genres, and people have said that like Pittsburgh is kind of like a little segmented or whatever, but it's like, I've never felt weird going to like someone else's show that I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't promoting because we're all still part of the same scene.
Right.
You know what I
right,
mean?
Right.
Well, to cut down to it, when we used to do shows, I'm here to play a show and I'm having fun because I'm up on stage.
Right.
Are these people having as much fun as me? No. This is
Get
like
it.
back in the day when we do these local shows and it's just a bar show, man. You know what I mean? Like some people at the bar are kind of like having a beer and trying to like, fucking sort of pay attention to us, and they're kind of irritated that they can't have a conversation with each other. There's always the motherfucker who's pissed off because the fucking Penguins are on and he didn't know this asshole fucking band was going to be here loud as shit. I mean, me and my drummer almost beat this dude's ass because I got so fucking sick of his shit. He's heckling us and shit, and it's just like...
Go home and watch the game.
Yeah, but look, here's the thing. Like, he was going to his favorite bar. He wanted to watch the Penguin game. Like, you're either going to a show and you're going to have a good time, or
Yeah.
you're going there out of obligation to a friend or family member. And, like, we have a good time at our shows, and other people are like, I have a great time here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many cool
That's what
people
you
here.
wanna hear.
Well, that's what I mean. It's got to be like a party. You know what I mean? Like, why do you go to your favorite bar?
Yeah.
Do you go there because they have the cheapest beer? Maybe. I used to. But I wasn't a very social drinker. I was going there just to get bombed out of my mind. If you have a favorite bar and you go there, chances are it's because you're going to run
It's
into
the people.
somebody
Absolutely.
there you go. Like, you don't... Yes, you're... I mean,
So you're creating
if
a
your
community,
favorite
a
bar...
traveling community that hopefully grows as well. Too.
Here's the best way to put it. If your favorite bar quit selling alcohol, would you go there?
Yeah, good question.
I don't fucking think so. Come on, let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you might stop by and have a pop, but you probably wouldn't keep going there. So the music's important. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no
Like,
doubt.
the music has to be there. But if all the people you like seeing at your favorite bar aren't there, really, I can drink at home, man. You know?
Right on to that. Yeah. Last question. What's the future hold? Starting with you. It's left round. Sort of
Okay.
thing.
For what? Music?
Counterclockwise.
We're
Yeah,
talking
Pittsburgh music scene. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you, it's gonna be a little more expanded, obviously, based upon.
I have a segue into yours because I didn't get to ask or pose an
Using
idea.
the segue.
Oh shit. Okay, well, I mean, people are doing shows now. It's not like shows aren't happening at all. For us, I think we just decided to take this year as just like a reboot kind of like trying to like fit, but like I really it is anybody's ball game right now, and I think that we were already in a place with like music as a whole that there was like a potential for change because of all the things we talked about leading up to this point of like people consuming music differently, all that kind of stuff. But now we've had this like full on reset, and I mean my hope is that it comes back stronger than ever because I think people realize what they missed, and I do think especially with regards to the local music scene, we almost got kind of spoiled because for a while it was like Pittsburgh didn't have one, and then all of a sudden like there were a lot of promoters like kind of like at our level that were just doing shows around the club level, and you on any weekend night you could choose like any club you might want to go to. I think there are going to definitely be more clubs that shut down, unfortunately.
I think it's already happened.
I mean, was Brillo Box just closed down?
Yep.
It is going to be, and Howler's is already going to close. But like, I think once we get through like that initial wave of like which businesses are actually able to survive,
New ones will open.
new ones will open, and I think that it will be kind of like we're talking about. It's like cream will rise to the top. People that stayed busy during this time, that continued to make art and continued to think about what they wanted to happen next, will be there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the people that were kind of like, every scene has people that are kind of just like, just doing something because they're bored maybe, or like just kind of want attention, or they just want somewhere to hang out. They'll either come back or they won't. But like, I think that my hope is that we'll miss seeing each other, because I've already seen it happen. Like the people that we have seen throughout this quarantine, like I've had people reach out to us and say like, I really think what you guys do is important. I think that, I can't wait to see you guys again.
Right.
I can't, so I think that that'll come back. I do. But I think that it's just going to take time. And I think that, it might look a little different at first, but people are resilient. And I mean, if I don't believe that this, knock on wood, I don't believe this virus is going to like, eliminate humankind. So it's like, eventually we're going to be back
Or
to-
human contact.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I truly believe that like, it's just that the desire,
We need that for our survival.
the desire
Contact.
for closeness is
Absolutely.
too strong. Like
Absolutely
people
right.
need it. And so like to try to like pretend like we could like literally for the rest of humanity be 6 feet apart with masks on, that's crazy. So like, I'm not worried about that part. So yeah, that's pass to you.
Well, thank you. I don't really know. I mean, I kind of, while you were talking, Julie, I definitely agreed with what you said, and I just started thinking about it, and people are, what's going to happen with COVID? Is it going to permanently change? I mean, it might change things for even quite a while with certain, protocols and stuff that they tell us we have to do. I mean, it depends on what data we get back and all that other nonsense. Is it going to kill live music? No. Is it going to kill our music scene? Our music scene was pretty much dead here, so I'm just like, it can't be any worse than it was.
I ain't paying $7 for a cover charge
7 or 8 years ago. Seriously, I mean, bands weren't working together. It was just, man, I hate to talk shit on my city, but it sucked. Anybody who played here knew it sucked. Yeah. And I don't know what it was. Like, there was a lot of people in the local scene who just got invested and started working together, and we were fortunate enough to be a part of it. And we're not LA in the 90s. I mean, like, it's still a small town it's still a big city that kind of feels like a small town. Right. That's Pittsburgh, and that's the music scene too. But the one thing that I've always said since we started getting involved in doing our promotion company and I got serious about my project is
Which is called Twisted Fate Productions, by the way.
Oh yeah, we're terrible at promoting
ourselves. For like 2 hours to bring that one out.
We're terrible at promoting ourselves.
I didn't hear, what's the name of that?
Twisted Fate Productions.
Twisted Fate
Twist
Productions.
of. Oh, there we go.
I said Twisted Fate.
I said my band's wrong name, so.
It's totally fine.
What?
Yeah, remember? You were like, I didn't hear what you said. I was like, I probably said Winners Decent or something.
Winners
are
decent.
That strong
Winners are decent.
Winner Descent.
Tell them what they want, Eric.
Yeah, and your producer, Lou.
Jeez. So anyway, but one of the big things that I recognize here in Pittsburgh is, like, if you want to be if you want to become a good player and become a professional and you live in Pittsburgh, I mean, Fred, you'd probably say the best thing you can do is move away from Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? Come on, let's not talk shit. But like, yeah, but you know what I mean? You got to go on tour and stuff like that. Like, okay, this guy's 12. He's a really good player. He really wants to be in a band. He wants to make it somewhere in the industry. And he's like, well, my plan is to stay here in Pittsburgh. And you're like,
don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
What's funny is if you go back and watch my other podcasts, that's exactly what I said.
Right.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to make it here.
And
that's the Pittsburgh mentality.
I know, you're right.
You know what? Nope, I'm going to stay here. There's no. I remember Ozzy goes to me one time. He goes, "Why don't you move out here, man?" I'm like, "Dude, I am happy." Because this is when US Air was around. I'm like, "I'm only 5 hours away, man. You call me up, I'll be there. I'm not moving to LA."
Right.
And the thing is, I had success here. We had success here. There's success to be had here.
Sure.
And, you do see a lot of cats get up and move away.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, they still come back.
Yeah.
I couldn't see myself. I mean, I lived out in L.A. for a bit, and I can't see my,
you definitely cannot live in LA.
We visited there. I know what you mean.
Man, it was. What's funny is
it was a culture clash thing.
Yeah.
Like, it was a nice place to visit. I wouldn't fit there as a transplant. I don't think I would flourish.
No, he would fit in there fine. That's all the reason why he can't go back.
Oh, jeez.
I actually was I would look for people from Pittsburgh out there, and I found a whole shitload of them.
Yeah.
And so I mean, you had that. I could have that little bit thing at home, but I think that with work, because this scene's dead. This scene's been dead since before you guys were born.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you had the same 3 bands playing, and that's all that got promoted. And I mean, we opened for national acts. I've knew people and shit like that, but it never really generated. We had the whole pay for play thing at graffiti and crap like that, and you think this is going to be great, this is my break.
Nope.
And no, it doesn't happen. And you have to hustle, and that's why we lose so many good players to that have to leave. But you know what, it's nice that some of these cats can leave, find success, and come home and bring it back. I mean, even with Rusted Root finding success, we've got Mr. Smalls.
Yeah, Liz is great.
Yeah.
And
she's
I
been
know
really good to
you
us.
guys you have a good relationship with those guys. So I mean, so there is some positive things. When this COVID thing's done, this is my preach right here, and I say this to people: practice now, folks, because you have all the time in the world.
Right.
Because a lot of people are laid off. I mean, I lost my job. I had 3 jobs. I lost all 3 of them. What am I doing? taking pictures,
bugs.
taking pictures and getting better at that. But I started playing again. And, it's all for preparation for when this is done, because I'm going to come out there and I'm going to have the best band, and I'm going to ram it down your throat like I did 30 years ago. I wanted to ram it down your throat. And that's just it, and that's what it takes to, to get out there, and I'm going to do everything right. But you got to learn how to play first, and you have to have a good product. So I think that people should be at this time having a good, work on making a good product. So when your time does come, when this is over, again, people are going to be flocking.
Sure.
And you guys are going to be busy.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have a lot of bands to promote and, a lot of shows to promote. And I think that it's going to come out and there's going to be a little bit of a renaissance.
Well, and as much shit as we've talked on, fucking social media, pain in the ass, you got to manage my Facebook and my Instagram. Like, if you want to be in a successful project, it's just necessary.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, one of the things we did is we reached out to a professional marketing team, and they're helping us manage our socials and stuff. And the big thing is, where's everybody at right now? Their ass is at home. You know what I mean? So, like,
Facebook.
working on your socials and reaching people online, like, it's not the funnest part for me. I like to play out live, but now's a great time to reach them because that's where they are. They're on social media.
You know where
build
they
your
are.
followers, and you know what I
where they
mean?
are.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But the one thing that I wanted to pass off to you, Fred, because what I was going to say is, like, the scene here, we don't really have a connect. We don't have a finger on the pulse to the national stage, and I don't feel like we have for a long time. Because honestly, like, if you were going to give it a 12-year-old, like, if you're really serious about making this your life, chances are you're not going to stay here in Pittsburgh. You're going to
Right.
get called away. You're going to go somewhere else. So, like, what I feel needs to happen here is through mentors, and we've already got some great people. Sid Riggs. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm
no
not even
doubt.
going to try and name them all. We finally have some good mentors, some people who got successful in the industry and came back here. You know what I mean? But we need to make it so that there's a doorway here to the national stage, or one of two things is going to happen. You're going to have an amazing band or amazing players. They're either going to move away, like Code Orange, you know what I mean? Yeah, perfect example. Or even more fucking tragic is all the really talented players here who just finally gave up, got day jobs, and said, you know
that's
what,
what
man?
happens, man.
I got to pay my fucking bills. Like, you got to we need to foster more of a doorway here to the national
Right.
stage and get taken seriously,
Yeah.
But the big thing that I'm wondering is, like, how do because every place has, whether it's successful or it's just a hole in the wall that we play at on Saturday nights, like, every place has these smaller, like, local scenes. Like, how does that, I mean, there's got to be some relationship to the national stage. Like, how do all these little local scenes, what is this, what is the relationship? Like, how does that create the environment that creates the national stage? You know what I mean?
Oh, like Atlanta for the B-52s and shit.
Well,
that-
like LA
REM.
was in the 90s,
Like,
you know what I mean? Because I've been
80s
told
and
that
90s,
like
yeah.
the scene that existed in LA is not the same either. It's not like you
No.
go to LA, you're going to play the bars, you're going to play the whiskey, and
Yeah.
you're going to be fucking famous. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how do how do these little scenes even play into what we consider to be the
Well,
national stage? You know?
Check this out. Like with Atlanta back in the day with B-52s and REM and those kind of things,
Love REM.
Yeah.
they work together.
Right.
Yeah.
And what don't we have here in Pittsburgh? For the love of Pittsburgh, for as much as I love this thing, you have everybody standing there. and I've said this for years. I'm going to piss off a lot of people, but that's how the attitude's always kind of, I can do that a little bit better, And whereas you had these cats,
Competitive to a fault.
Yep, and you had these cats in Hollywood that worked together, that had good promotion, that promoted shows together, that played, and the same thing in Atlanta. You had REM, B-52s working together.
Sounds like you two are building that, though.
Well, that's what I was going
building
to
that
get to.
community.
We're working on it.
That's what I was getting to. These cats are the important step
Right.
to getting what we want here, a national scene to generate. We have such a variety of music here. We still have the blues. We have metal.
Yeah.
We have pop bands.
We've got hip hop.
We
The
have
hip hop scene here is
Mac
bumping.
Miller. We got
Yeah.
Wiz Khalifa. These cats came out of just throwing demos around on tapes. You know what I mean?
Selling in the parking lot.
The talent is here, and we talk about going and playing your local hole on Saturday. I play on Thursdays. I go out to the Trap, out to the Mousetrap. the caliber of players out there, and we just do jam nights. We just pick up and play.
Sure.
You know, hey, you know this song? But they're coming in from like Ohio and West Virginia, and you know, and from Pittsburgh. You're getting these cats that can actually play, and again, in the same sense, they're asking the same question. My buddy from Ohio, he's like, "How do I break into the Pittsburgh scene?" You know?
And it's funny because I've gotten that question before too, and I always feel like I'm like, I can't imagine there being a closed door anywhere around here.
But we are the major metropolitan epicenter for like the tri-state area, really. Because what's the closest city? Like what? Cincinnati? Maybe Cleveland?
Yeah. You know, so we're in a great spot, and we have such a variety.
We're just such a tough nut to crack, man.
No doubt.
So, but with guidance from you guys, and you know, that's the key. That's what pushes us into the next. We've gotten so close so many times. Yeah. You know, you had Rusted Root that's going on tour with the Dead and Plant and Page and you know and shit like that. You know, the Clarks did well for a bit, and you know whatever they did with Atlantic. I feel bad to say this, but we played Montreal with Code Orange. Dude had a pirate hat on, and I'm like, oh. You a Pittsburgh fan? He goes, I'm from Pittsburgh.
Well, they kind of took me by surprise
didn't make it
too.
here, though, you know what I mean?
It's so interesting because like I actually worked with a lady who like her daughter went to school with them, and she like told me about them like right before they really got popular.
Right.
She's like, do you know what I'm talking about? I feel like they're getting popular now. And it was like as soon as they were about to like get nominated for that Grammy was whenever I like kind of like really heard about them. I was like, holy cow! Like we went and saw them at Smalls, and it was
nuts.
Packed.
Yeah,
it was
the theater
nuts.
was packed.
Like I've never seen kids like just like the way they were like jumping on each other. It was nuts.
What were we just saying? They had to leave.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I'm guessing it was probably the same with the Clerks too, right?
I don't.
There was a little bit more of a homegrown thing there.
They
fit our
I'm about to
home
say
scene a little bit
stylistically,
more.
like,
on the show. He outlined the history there. They were always a Pittsburgh band.
Yeah, they had a good push from the local radio station.
They did.
Yeah,
they did. Well,
WDBE.
times were different then too, though. It was different.
Yeah.
The environment was different.
Well, and we're talking about like a lot of what we're talking about is hard rock and heavy metal. And Code Orange is a good example. They're more of like a hardcore band, but like they left.
Yeah,
and then they made it somewhere else. You know?
Right.
And it's like, what does it take for a band like Code Orange to stick here and to be from here? And yeah, you got to go out and tour, you got to play the national scene, but like, you don't necessarily got to be like, fuck my hometown, man. It's never going to happen for me here and leave and go somewhere else, because that's the bottom line. It's not like it was where it's like, well, you can go to New York or you can go to L.A. or there's a few other major epicenters. Like Slipknot came out of fucking Iowa.
So with everybody marketing themselves and going straight to the consumer through the internet, is there even any validity to like kiss
That's
the
what I mean. What
kiss
is it?
the
You can be from anywhere but Pittsburgh? Like, what the fuck
company.
is that?
Well, and I do think that is one major shift we might see with this pandemic is that so many people are leaving LA.
Yeah.
New York got freaking, decimated.
Yeah.
So like
California's going to be not a ghost town, but California's going to take a population hit over the next decade.
That's what I don't get though. If you can come out of fucking Iowa, why can't it be?
Come
like,
out
what's
of
wrong with us? You know what I mean? Like, what's wrong with here? And that's what I mean. I think part of it is
not enough forward-thinking people living here.
Well,
that's
and
the problem.
that's the thing though. Like, if you cannot gain some traction where you're from, you got to go somewhere else. Like, as popular as you get, like in your surrounding cities, and you start building your circle bigger and bigger and get to the point where you're regional, it starts where you're from. You got to build a buzz where you're at, and that's like the biggest thing we've been trying to do is, come on, Pittsburgh, like, give a shit, you know? And for me,
care about your locals, care about them as much as you care about
support your local music. Is it fair to say that we're not a live music town? I mean, it's going to break your heart to say that, but actually, is it really the valid question?
The Pittsburgh music ecosystem. Were you aware of that thing, Fred? Where they had music ecosystem thing.
They brought a guy in from Austin.
Invested because they were like in other cities. It's part of like your tourism where. Like, hey, let's go check out some local music. Like, that ain't a thing here. You know what I mean? Yeah, like the entertainment industry. And Pittsburgh was like, well, why aren't we one of these cities? And they brought a guy in from Austin. But, dude, they had like a town hall meeting and they had people, they were forming committees, and the whole thing fizzled out. This was like 2 years ago.
One of the reasons why back in the day, why we didn't get a lot of bands coming through. Bands quit coming because they had to pay a tax.
Taxes.
Yeah, I know.
That's why,
Pay a tax up-
that's why PPG will never be what the Civic Arena was in its heyday, because in the city limits, you're going to pay the entertainment tax. The city of
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
5%.
That's why Star Lake, or whatever they call it now.
I don't even know.
This
I
year.
lost
I don't know
track.
what it is
PPG,
now.
Pittsburgh, something.
Well, no. The one out the shed.
Key Bank.
Yeah,
Bank,
Key
the
Bank.
Pavilion.
Yeah.
That's
for a
why it
while
was located where it was.
Niagara.
I mean, I remember
because they had to be out of the
But
city
I
limits,
remember, it was strange to me, but we asked Paul Stanley why his solo tour was in the Palace Theater in Greensburg.
Same reason.
Because he loved the downtown of Pittsburgh, and he goes, well, the economics just didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
We had to be out of it. That's a shame.
Yeah.
Well,
Out
and
of
that
the
was
city.
one of the
Yeah.
things that when they did do their report, because they basically, people got really upset because they paid this guy from Austin to come in and do an assessment.
Wow.
But the money didn't come, it's not like it was our tax money, it was
Right.
from like grants and stuff. But so one of the things that he said was that, like, we do have a lot of barriers here, like legalities,
Legislative barriers.
and, yeah, exactly. And that's one of the-
Taxation barriers.
Taxation, but also
Noise
something was
ordinances.
noise ordinance. Something was
Yeah.
pointed out to me. They were like, "Look, you got a happening band, right? Fucking,
Bars
there's
close
five.
at 2.
There's not just that, but you got 5 bands. You got a happening band in this bar right here. People hear music from the street and want to come in. They're like, that band sounds pretty good. If you can hear the music from the street, that bar
course.
can
Too
get
loud.
fined. That's what I mean.
loud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some legislative things in place that are just.
Nashville's that way. You can just walk down.
Oh yeah, Nashville's. We
Yeah,
almost
we
moved
went
to
to
Nashville.
Nashville, yeah. We were thinking about moving the band down there.
Exactly. That was like
But
one of the moves
then,
we were thinking about making.
we realized if you're
Everybody's in Nashville.
Yeah.
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 Some of the
love
best
going there.
guitarists in the world are
Yeah.
pumping gas in Nashville.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
true.
Well, either way, I do think that, to your point, Jerry, I think that's like one of the things that we've really like tried to spend a lot of time considering, is that like we would like to see Pittsburgh be kind of like more of a hub, and like I don't want to live in LA. I don't want to live in Chicago. I don't want to live in New York. Like
Right.
I love being here.
Pittsburghers
Yes,
love
same way.
Pittsburgh.
You know what I mean? Like
We
I do.
We're like
We're
a big
just-
city with a hometown, sort of
we're
like
just
from our
really
news media
we're
to the
quirky,
radio
though.
stations.
Yeah.
Like we love our city. We
We're
just
quirky, though.
we just don't love our local music. I want to say, like, the analogy I used to have. I was like, the Pittsburgh music scene is kind of like the Pittsburgh Pirates. Before we had our little upswing where we were good for a while, like for what was it, 20 years, they said we were the losingest team, not just in baseball, but all of professional
Yes.
fucking sports.
Yes.
For Christ's
we
sake.
had a 2-year spread there, and now we're right back to the bottom.
But that's
again.
what I mean. Everybody has known for the longest time we're just awful. But like nobody expected anything from the Pirates. We didn't invest anything in the Pirates. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's like the Pittsburgh music scene. No one really takes it seriously. We've talked to other people, other places. They don't talk shit, but they're like, you're not on the map. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one thinks about what's going on in Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? And
Well, we lost a lot of population too. If you look back to like the 76 on, when the mill started shutting down, a lot of people went to college, but then immediately left to Florida. They kind of somewhat came back.
we're seeing
But I
people come
think-
back
but,
now.
But I think if you look at the
we're
raw
the most,
numbers,
one of the most livable cities in the United States.
yeah, I think we've won that award a couple times over the last couple of decades. But I think the population is eroded for the South.
Yeah.
I don't, and again, I don't know what that means, but there's got to be some reason why we're not a music town. We're just not. My uncle was in a band called Gravel in the 70s. Fred's aware of them, but probably the biggest Pittsburgh band of the early 70s. And there was a happening music scene in Pittsburgh in the early 70s. The population was a little different.
That's around the
And
last
it-
time
but-
we
but-
had
but-
one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's told me over and over again he made a decision to stay in Pittsburgh. It didn't work out, and he played drums with 50s acts and blues acts. And there's a loyalty that goes along with the audiences for particular bands or particular venues. But growing that loyalty, there's not clear pathways to do that in Pittsburgh. And that's kind of what we talked about today, trying to find that pathway.
Right.
To grow an audience for a band or for a venue or for a tribe of people that just love seeing a certain genre of music. There's no clear pathway. You're creating. You two are trying to figure it out. Really trying to.
Well, and we're definitely not the only ones.
No, and that's the thing is, it's funny because it's like, I think to your point before as well, is that like, there's not really like a figure, like this kind of thing, like I do think happens organically. Like I really think that enough people have to, there has to
It
be
does,
some,
but there are
there's
always-
some facilitation
Yes,
that has to happen.
exactly.
And it's hard because like, I'm not going to say that I haven't like struggled throughout this time period, because I mean, like, I keep joking and I stopped even talking about it, but like, and I've, he has to hear about it all the time, but like we have a website and like, I just haven't launched it because I just like have a few things left to do with it and I don't feel like doing them, and I just haven't felt like sitting in front of the computer and like
Right.
I feel like there's so much content coming out right now I don't want it to get like, just lost in the sea of everything else. And it's like, I'm so like, kind of like, just over all the digital stuff. I just want to be back to like, I'm so good at just promoting shows whenever they're happening.
I wonder if even websites are even relevant anymore in many instances, because
it's almost
Facebook
like you have
and
to have
Instagram,
one just because like you have to like own real estate.
You
know what I mean? Like
it's
like you have to own like digital.
guess.
It's like part of like being like legit.
No, I guess so. I guess so.
And I agree with you, but like, and honestly, the main reason I wanted it was so that we could have a hub for ticket sales and like so that if anyone could
That's
go
the big thing with a website is when you have a product to sell, you want to have your online store there.
Right.
It's a place to direct all your traffic to. That's yours. That's only yours. It's not. It's not. It's kind of like you said. It's like your house as opposed to something you're renting from Facebook.
Absolutely
right. And so it's like it's necessary, but it's like it's funny because it's been kind of like one of the things that I'm like, well, I could be doing that now because I'm not doing all this other stuff. But it's hard because the other stuff is what I want to do. Right. And so it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's been a struggle to remain optimistic. But like I said, I can't imagine life without live music.
Yeah,
you know
but
what I mean?
this podcast that we did here tonight, this has been a little shot in the arm for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
the other thing is, like, we have to remember, like Fred said, like, when this breaks, and it will break, they can't keep us locked up forever, you know what I mean? People, I do believe, I don't think they're going to be like, oh, I'm used to being home now, I'm just going to stay home. Like, when I first went back out to a
Social
restaurant,
creatures.
I was so fucking excited to be in a restaurant, you know what I mean?
And we were like the only people there, too. It was like, I remember on our...
We were just beaming, sitting there like, I'm out!
I know, like looking around like, this is
I remember this.
But that's what I mean. It's been a long road to hoe. Like, we have to remember that this, this is finite, and we need to be ready, and this is a great time to start building our business plan, and there's a lot of things that we can do in the interim. I've been focused a lot on my band in this time, and
and there's a lot that are
but we have kind of lapsed on our company that we started because like we stayed in contact with people because we'd see them at shows.
Right.
We had a regular night at the Fun House that Mr. Smalls has us coming. The Crucible Project. Jason will kill us if we don't say that. Everybody's always shouting Twisted Fate, and he's like, fuck me, right?
All right, give him another plug.
Yeah.
Well, that is our regular night at the Funhouse of Mr. Smalls that we hope to get back to
it's
eventually.
Not regular recently, but
it was our regular night before.
It's going to go back. It's going to go back.
Pre-Mad Max days.
It's like, I think negativity breeds more negativity, and conversely, positivity can breed more positivity.
Right.
Sure.
When people see and feel things that are not normal to them, or they view them negatively, it's natural that they're going to feed off of negative energy from other people talking about it, what they see. And that's kind of what I think, to me personally, the essence of the entire pandemic in terms of the psyche. We just need a stop in that negativity, and then just a change of course back on a little bit of positivity, and then that will take off again. That's going to come in the form of a vaccine, or that's going to come in the form of good news that deaths have gone down. When we get to that point where literally there's something major that can change the course of negativity and turn us positive, the positivity will grow exponentially, and we will be back to normal. I'm not going to give you a time frame. It's going to be soon.
Sure.
But I don't think it's going to happen overnight. But we're not made to live this way. We're not made to be in quarantine. We're not made to worry about being 6 feet away from some of our loved ones and our friends. This will change. We will get through this. Hopefully most of us can look back on this at some point and say there were some constructive things I did.
Right.
Hopefully. Are you listening? Hopefully. Because you've had a lot of time.
Get your shit together.
Hopefully, Fred. But I think that it's a matter of time, that you cannot keep humans.
No. Well,
apart.
and I do want to shout out one thing too. If no one's done this yet, there's something called Save Our Stages. If you just like hashtag Save Our Stages, it's a piece of legislation that's being promoted. And actually, our friends in the Working Stiffs podcast, we normally provide them with a song every episode that they do.
Yep.
So we're like their sponsor. And this past week, I totally dropped the ball, and I was like, look, I want you to shout out Save the Stages, because I feel like it's something that like it's been ongoing, but those original the pay protection plans and all that stuff, it didn't really help venues because they were designed more for restaurants, and even like when bars are able to open, there's still another barrier before a venue can open because of capacities and all this kind of stuff. So Save Our Stages is a whole piece of legislation that's being put through to the government to basically create grants available for independent venues. So I think things like that, like, because the problem is like, you still want to have those spaces to come back to.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it's cream rises to the top. The ones that fold may have been on the verge of folding anyway. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to say, especially now.
Yeah, I mean, because it's
the
been
facts
so
are
long.
facts,
Well, look,
you
when
know?
there's a forest fire, it's like, oh, all these fucking trees burn down, but that enriches the soil. Like, you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
good analogy.
It's like,
Yeah.
I remember learning in school that there's like, an evolution of forests, and the brush will burn down, and there'll be a forest fire, and it enriches the soil, and you can actually, like, they can dig down and look at all the layers
Oh, yeah.
and tell you what happened in this forest and the
Cycle.
history
Yeah.
of this forest, and this is just the forest fire that's burning all kinds of shit to the fucking ground, and we just got to survive
Like a
it.
heavy metal video.
I know, I was
Yeah,
thinking the same
right?
thing. That's really good for the genre. But I was
Yeah.
thinking we need to stay vigilant and remember that we need to keep plugging away and be ready for
Absolutely.
when this fucking breaks,
And it's going to.
Yeah.
My friends, I appreciate it. It's a
Thanks
good
for
time.
having us. This was a lot
Come
of
back
fun.
and see me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we will.
Sure.
We had a
For
great
sure.
time.
All right.
It's good meeting
Fred, always.
It was good meeting both of you
Yeah.
guys.
Good meeting you,
Yeah,
man.
this was
Good
exciting.
time. And the conversations off camera were just as enlightening as on camera.
Very entertaining.
Yeah.
All right. God bless y'all. And we are out.
Bye.
See ya.